Good afternoon and welcome to the July 19th meeting of Glendale Housing Authority. May we have the roll call, please?
Authority members: Devine.
Here.
Friedman.
Here.
Garpetian.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Barazian.
Here.
Chair Sinanian.
Here. May we have the next item on the agenda?
The agenda for the July 19, 2016 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, July 14, 2016 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Next item is approval of minutes.
Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Is this the minutes from last week?
Minutes from Tuesday, July
Yes.
12th. That's correct.
So I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here.
We have one abstention. That's Authority Member Garpetian. Any other comments? No. So without objections, the minutes are approved as submitted with one abstention. Next item, please.
Next item is oral communication. However, no cards were submitted for this portion of the meeting. And the next item on the business agenda is the Director of Community Development regarding consideration of 5 affordable senior housing development proposals on Housing Authority-owned property at 5th Street and Sonora Avenue in response to Housing Authority's request for proposals. 6A1 is a Housing Authority motion to note the 5 developer presentations for an affordable senior housing development on Housing Authority-owned property at 5th Street and Sonora Avenue in the response to the Housing Authority's request for proposals.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And before I invite anyone from the Housing Authority up, I do want to make a comment and okay, yeah, my comment has nothing to do with the substance of what we're going to look at today, but my comment is that too often we hear in Glendale that low-income housing projects or low-income housing buildings are concentrated in South Glendale in the same general geographic area. And today is an exciting day, not only because we are able to consider another low-income housing building, but also because it's in North Glendale. I think it's very important that our low-income housing is spread throughout the city as equally as possible, and that the residents who live in those buildings are also not relegated to the same neighborhood. And on that note, obviously, a geographic location that's north of Glen Oaks and it's in the northwest or central west part of Glendale is clearly not in South Glendale, and we should all be content with that. On another note, I do want to ask someone from Housing Department, Peter Zovak is not here, so someone who can take his place and explain how individuals are chosen for either the Section 8 housing program or the any kind of, whether it's senior or non-senior low-income housing, because today during our South Glendale study session, someone got up and in the most crass and the most disgusting manner made the most horrible statements about certain types of people that live in low-income housing. He mentioned all the people that don't live there, and clear implication that he was talking about the Armenian American community. And the comment was just so bad that our council member Najarian walked out, and I completely understand why he did that. And other than making a myriad of stereotypical statements about, well, they're driving Mercedeses and stuff like that, he implied that somehow these people, Armenians, are somehow getting into these units and disproportionately, and that's a problem for diversity, and it's cynical. You know, they're attacking someone on their ethnic basis, and then they're making the grand argument for more diversity. So how are these people, I mean, how are the candidates chosen? How does this happen? And you know what was shocking to me and the most, very disappointing was that none of the non-Armenian American council members said anything. Had that been said about anyone other than Armenians, people would line up to object to what was being said, but no one stood up. So that was very much noted. So, please, Mr. Lanzafame.
Sure. First, to start with the Section 8. Section 8 is a voucher program. We get a certain number of vouchers, and then people stay on that program until they're not for either income or they pass away. Back several years ago, and it may have been early 2000s, I think, was the last time we did it. We opened the list up and we took applications. And the applications were based on two things. First, we had different categories of points. So if you were a veteran, if you lived in the city of Glendale, if you were disabled, if you were senior, you got a certain number of points. Then we took everybody with equal number of points and put them into a lottery, and they were randomly drawn. And from that, we created a list. That list was over 10,000 people for what amounts to about 1,500 units that Glendale gets to implement the Section 8 program. Over the years, we've whittled that list down. People have found other housing. They've got into Section 8 or they've moved out of the area. That list is now down to about 5,000. But we haven't seen new vouchers in a long time. We did just receive 15 new vouchers. They're specifically for veterans. They're called the VASH program. So that list exists, and we continue that list. That is merely by who applies for the program. They were given points, assigned points, and put on a list. For the development projects that we do, both homeownership, well, I'll say for the ones that, the non-Habitat for Humanity, the projects that we do in the city of Glendale, and they've for the most part been rental, is we'll put out a general request for applications. We go to that interest list for our Section 8, and we make sure they all know about it. We do a broad announcement of it, and then we take all applications. Those applications, let's say for just a standard project, for those applications come in, everybody gets assigned a number. Those numbers go in, and they are randomly selected. We have had them, those lotteries have been open to the public. They typically take place here, and they're overseen by our audit staff to ensure fairness and that there's no preference given to any one person. Now, we do have some programs like Dorn Gardens. That was an affordable project. It was ownership. And so, again, we took applications of everybody, and then people needed to, we put them in order according to a lottery, and then they needed to qualify to buy the home. And if they were able to, they were. If not, they went off the list, and everybody moved up one. And then I would say the other that has a bit of a twist to it is the most recent project we did, and we had a lot of discussion about the selection there for the artist colony, ACE 121, that we're doing with the YMCA. Again, we're assigning points to people. Are you an artist? Do you live in Glendale? Do you work in Glendale? And you get a certain number of points. Now, when those applications come in, we'll do the same thing. By lottery, random lottery, people will be put in an order on a list, and then we'll make sure that they qualify for the project. So they're all done by random lottery. It depends on the pool of people that apply. I can tell you for the last project that we did, actually, I'm sorry, it was a AB 1818, SB 1818 project. There were 22 units. We received over 10,000 applications for that. So we're able to get the word out to people. We get those in, and we have in the thousands the people that are wanting to get on. We do that by a random lottery, and we set that, and then there are specific standards and criteria upon which we create eligibility for people.
So one's racial identity or ethnic background, sexual orientation, is that something that the lottery knows how to differentiate?
No, it's a number, and the number is all one color.
And the Section 8 system, is there any way to differentiate where someone came from, what their ethnicity, their religion is, or anything like that?
You know, I suppose you could with the list, you could guess where people came from. But again, all of the criteria is all objective, given age. You have to prove your age. Were you a veteran? You've got to produce that DD 214 that says you were discharged from the service. So there's objective criteria that goes on the list, people that apply, and that list gets set by random lottery. So the answer is no. The short answer
is no. And throughout the process, whether before selection, during selection, and after selection, there's continuous monitoring, right? There's the reporting requirements as to whether these recipients of low-income housing benefits still comply by the requirements.
Oh, yes, indeed. We monitor all of our affordable housing in Section 8. And if somebody's income goes above that is eligible, then they're no longer. And
in fact, there have been numerous people who have been deprived of their low-income housing and Section 8 because we have discovered that they no longer comply by it.
Yeah, they were no longer,
I know numerous.
I would say they were no longer eligible rather than deprived,
right,
because they didn't meet the eligibility requirements or they violated some rule of the program.
Okay. Just wanted to get that out of the way because I think it's important that some people understand that there's a process, and you know what the simple reality is, wherever the city is, whatever the lower economic strata of the society is, they're most likely to be receiving these low-income housing benefits. It's just how things work. You can go from one city to the other, and the picture is not going to be different. It may be different as to where people came from, but as to what the background is in terms of immigrant, in terms of economically disadvantaged, is going to be the same. So with that, I think Councilmember Friedman has something she'd like to say.
I have a conflict with this matter. As I disclosed the last time it came up, that I received a campaign contribution from one of the applicants, so I'm going to be recusing myself. And I will see you all this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Well, since we're on that subject, Mr. City Attorney, I also have received a campaign contribution to my supervisor's race from one of the applicants. Is that grounds for recusal?
Councilmember Jarin, members of the Housing Authority, the requirements in our code apply to campaign contributions received for council races. So the actual legal requirement to disqualify is triggered when the contribution is made for a council race. It does not apply to the other races, any other electoral race.
Okay. So is there advice as city attorney that you're giving me, assuming my facts that I gave you are correct?
My advice is you can participate legally if you choose to.
Okay. I think this is important enough to participate in, so I'm going to remain.
If I can comment on this, and this may be a subject for a city council meeting as opposed to a housing authority meeting, but I understand what the rule is, and I think it's silly. It doesn't make any sense. You can take money from a contractor so long as his project is being considered in the city, but so long as you're taking the money for a race other than the city council race, it's okay. And that's the rule. That's just the rule. It's the way it is. I think it's silly. It makes no sense whatsoever. Maybe we should do something where it becomes mandatory, and I know these council members have disclosed it to us, but I don't even think they have the obligation to disclose it to the rest of the council, to the audience, to the residents of the city. Maybe we need to implement some kind of an ordinance where it requires disclosure, or would that run afoul of FPPC rules?
No, if the council wants to, two council members want to advise us to prepare a report on that, well, we'll be happy to do so.
Well, that would be my proposal.
I'd like to second that.
Put that on the calendar.
Well, let me also ask my colleagues that upon that disclosure, if that disclosure in any way lessens the weight or credibility of my remarks in the ensuing discussions, I will recuse myself just as a matter of honor. If any of you think that it has jaded me, I don't think that serves well in a discussion and debate. So if someone would like me to leave, if two of you...
I was not implying that.
No, but I understand. And no, that's not what you're saying, but let's take it for that. If two of you think that I would be jaded by such a donation, I will step down. Any takers? All right, then I'm going to remain.
Since we're on the subject,
Microphone.
Your microphone?
Yeah, his microphone's on. Yeah, Councilman Carpenter.
maybe it's away from my face. So, I was talking to the city attorney this morning. I don't know if it's the right time to bring this up, as long as we're talking about the disclosures and the council contributions. We have a deadline as to when we can recover our debt, the campaign debt. And I want to bring that up for a discussion to see if we can.
And I'll second because I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a silly rule. Yeah.
Very strict.
So
we'll add that to the item.
Add that to the item, and can we bring this back sooner than later, please?
Yes. Yeah. I will work with Mr. Ochoa on a calendar, but those two items we can bring back relatively quickly. They're pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely. Thank you. With that, let's get into the actual meat and potatoes of the matter.
It's already been read. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Housing Authority, I want to give you a quick introduction and then jump right into our five interviews. As you know, because we have been reporting to this on you, we had 18 developers respond to the RFP. We're very excited with the response that we got. The RFP team recommended, the RFP team, review team recommended 3. They are Adobe Communities, Link Housing, Core is a partnership, and Thomas Saffron Associates. At a recent Housing Authority meeting, the Housing Authority elected to add 2 developers to that for a total of 5, Ganji Design and the Pacific Companies. The evaluation criteria that we used in coming up with our recommendations was these: development experience, and that of the entire team. Have they done this together? Have they done these types of projects? Sources and uses, this is really funding. How are they going to fund the project? And the cost of the project, both high and low, was something that we looked at. The developer vision, how well did they describe what their idea is and their vision for this project and this property? Housing cohesion, this is a term that is a little bit confusing, but for the most part, it's what target population were we trying to achieve, or was the developer trying to achieve with this? Moderate income, low income, very low, extremely low. You had set some parameters in your RFP, in our RFP, and so how well did they hit that target? Sustainability, energy, environment, pretty much with Title 24, everybody is going to have a compliant building, but have they gone that extra step and done something else? What kind of benefits come to the community? Are there public amenities as part of this project that would benefit that community? How fast can they do this, or how appropriate time can they do this? Is it too fast? Is it too slow? Is it right on time? And then how well did they comply with the RFP? I would say in the first that their experience with tax credits is important to us, because that's a major funding for this. This afternoon, we have all the developers here. They will be heard in this order. We're giving them 20 minutes for a presentation, and then about 10 minutes for you to ask questions. Ask as many questions. This is an interview, somebody that you are going to partner with, so ask the questions that you think are appropriate. We have asked the developers to remain in their location until they're called upon, so that we keep a level playing field. Nobody knows what one has said or the other. Then last...
Not televised?
I'm sorry?
Is televised?
Yes, but we've asked them not to. They're in places where TVs are turned off.
Okay.
Projects are typically financed with a combination of tax credits, local investment, and private loans. The private loans being construction and permanent financing for that gap that is not covered by the tax credit and whatever the public entity puts in. With respect to tax credits, there are 2 types: 9% tax credits Very competitive. They're intended to fund 70% of the project as a rule of thumb. There are also 4% tax credits. Much more easy to achieve and obtain, but they only fund about 30% of the project. This will have a bearing on how much subsidy or private loan a developer will have to take.
Can I ask a question on what are the criteria based for the 9% tax credits? How do you come up with whether they can be funded with the 9% or they can only be funded by the 4%?
Projects can be funded by either, but again, it's the same instrument, but they're implemented two different ways. If a developer wants more money out of the tax credit, they go to a more competitive 9%, where they can achieve more proceeds from the tax credit instrument. If they believe that they can get a project using 4% tax credits and only fund about 30% of the project with tax credits and use other financing, whether it be the city is putting in a lot of money. In times, cities will, because you can't get that 9% tax credit. So the city says, I'll invest more, pick up more of that gap, and you go get the 4% tax credit because we know it's readily available.
So it becomes a function of where that capital is available from, either from the city, from the developer, his or herself, or it has an impact on the pro forma of the project.
But isn't there some kind of criteria where they can earn the 9% tax credits? I mean,
you make that selection. Where do I want my project to compete? Developer makes that selection to go one way or the other.
Are you referring to the tiebreaker, perhaps?
yes,
Talk a
probably.
little bit about
Well,
that.
in terms of that, if you present a project, for the most part, projects are going to meet and get a score of 100%. They're all going to be on the same scale with that highest score. Then they go to a complex formula, but to really simplify it, it's really the variable is how much will the public entity invest? How much is the public entity putting into that project? And the more the public entity puts into that project, the higher the tiebreaker score goes. It's a balancing act of all total costs, but generally speaking, the more the public entity puts in, the higher tiebreaker score, because that means the project needs less credits, and that means there's more credits to give out as a whole. Some additional information for you just to keep in mind as we're going through this. The incomes that have been targeted that were in the RFP, 30% AMI, that is an annual income of $18,240 for one person. Up to 60% two-person household, $41,700. Those translate into these rents. So for that, it's at 30%, very low. This is extremely low, I believe. $488 a month for one bedroom. The 60% is low income, is two bedroom. The high is $1,173. So that's kind of the range of rents that we have. So with that, we'll invite our first proposal.
Mr. Lansing, do you have the criteria slide that you've went through? Is that something we can have in front of us? Yes. I think that's important for us to have as we listen to the...
You know what we'll do? It's on two slides, so we'll ask to get some copies made for you.
At some point, thank you.
While the first developer. Do you have that criteria slide?
I'll have to make copies of those two slides. Yeah, okay. Want me to introduce? Okay, Mike Fortney, Housing Product Manager. I just want to introduce Link and Core as the first development team, Suni Chang and Sid Pinedo. Thank you.
I got the clicker. I think it's here.
Mouse is up there.
While they're pulling up the presentation. Good afternoon. Honorable Chair, Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council members, members of the Housing Authority, thank you for having us here this afternoon. My name is Sunile Cheng. I'm Executive Vice President of Link Housing. And on behalf of my counterpart, Sid Pinedo, here from National Core, I want to say thank you for having us here. Let's see if we're up here. So Link Housing and National Core decided to partner on this RFP because we recognize that two heads are better than one, and that by partnering, we'd be able to bring to bear three things that we think will set us apart. First is our depth of experience. Second is our local commitment to the community. And third is our clean and clear execution. And so let me tell you a little bit about each of us. Link and Core are both nonprofit affordable housing developers based here in Southern California. Link is in Long Beach, Core is in Rancho Cucamonga, and as you can see here, we both build beautiful, award-winning, low-income housing projects. We've been doing this, each of us, for over 25 years, and we share a philosophy as nonprofits, mission-driven nonprofits, that we are here to transform lives and communities through our housing. Let me go into our experience that I mentioned. You'll see here these numbers will put us head and shoulders above a lot of other developers out there. We've combined developed over 17,500 units of all low-income housing. 14,000 of those units are under management currently. If you go all the way down to the bottom, in the last 3 years alone, we've secured $266 million of financing to build our projects. So this is a very robust pipeline and development skill set that we have. 4,800 units of our portfolio are senior units, and we do have a high concentration in LA County, even though we operate statewide. A quarter of our portfolio is in LA, and even if we want to go even more locally, we have projects here in Eagle Rock and in Pasadena. We also have strong ties to the community here. We have several board members who live in the city of Glendale, who serve on foundations in the city of Glendale, boards such as the Glendale Fire Foundation, and the mayor of Pasadena actually sits on our board. And so what that means to you all is that we have a local presence, that we are here, we're embedded in the community, we're here for the long run, and you can reach any of us at any point. It also means that we are committed, and that we can, and you have that commitment from everybody here on the Link staff, the Core staff, all the way up to our boards of directors. The other benefit you get, besides our experience, our local commitment, is complete vertical integration. As you can see here, we are able to control and manage the entire development process from beginning to end. So Link will be doing the development, the sustainability piece. We actually do have an energy services and water conservation company. National Core will be managing the construction and the property management. And because services to our communities is so important to us, we'll be doing both of us providing social services to the community. Benefits of the integration, again, it's seamless. You get strict quality control throughout the process, cost efficiencies, and you can talk to any of us. We're all approachable. Everybody who's doing anything on this project is going to be accessible. So let me orient you to the site here. I'm sure you know it well, but here it is in blue. You see Glen Oaks along the top there. You have Sonora and 5th Street. We looked at a variety of factors to determine what to be able to build there, and what we came up with was that we could put 65 units there. Now, I'll go into the detail of how we arrived at 65 units, but if you look at this site, the first thing that jumps off at you is it's kind of an awkwardly shaped site, and it would be much better if you could square out the site a little bit. So what we did is we put out offers to the various properties on that corner, because we recognized that not only would we be able to provide additional housing, we'd also be able to enhance that entire corner, which is really an entrance to this neighborhood, and really revitalize the community. So we have offers out on those sites. In fact, this morning, we accepted a counteroffer from one of the property owners there, and so we're actively in conversations with everyone and have just accepted a counter. So our intent is that if we're able to tie up at least 2 of those sites, we'd be able to add 17 additional units for a total of 82 units. Now, that begs the question. If you can get 82 units and you can pay for them, why don't you put them on the original site? Well, we had 3 reasons why we didn't want to do that. The first is, if you look at that long parcel going out to Sonora, that piece actually is well positioned to provide a community benefit to the area. And what we said was, we're going to take that entire parcel and we're going to put a community center there. And it's a community center that's intended to serve the seniors living at our apartment, but also the broader community. The second thing we said was, well, we want to manage costs. And so it's really important for us to stay surface park because for all the obvious reasons of managing the cost, besides all the obvious reasons of managing costs, it's also a formula for the tiebreaker, whether you're subterranean or not, and how you work into the cost structure here. So that's an important thing that we've factored in. And the third reason we decided that 65 units was the optimal density for this site is if you look at what's in the neighborhood, you see lots of one stories. There on the right, you see a 2-story. On the left, you see a 3-story. But essentially, the height in that neighborhood is 2 to 3 stories. And what we wanted to do is to respect the integrity of the massing, the bulk in the neighborhood, and respect the height along that street frontage. You also see in there a lot of Spanish style. You see the tile roofs. You see arches. And so what we came up with, if you take a look, is a Spanish colonial revival style here, 65 units. This is fronting on Sonora Avenue. It's in 2 buildings flanking a courtyard, and what's significant here is that on the street frontage you see 2 stories, stepping back up to 3 stories again to maintain that density. Here's the aerial. So that site, that elevation I just showed you, that was along 5th. That's the residential area. Actually, I have a mouse here. I can help. Oh. Wait a minute. Okay. So here is the residential area right here, and that's the frontage I was just showing you. And then this area right here is where we're putting our entire community center, and we do have 1 floor of units right above that to squeeze in a few more units. But as you can see, this is let me zoom in for you here. You can see the 2 residential buildings flanking a corridor that's inviting lots of green space for seniors to get out and engage with each other, not be socially isolated. We have here this community center that I mentioned to you all together, and then it's connected by a central plaza that's very rich with amenities. And one of the things we're very excited about is we wanted to create a park-like setting that would be inviting for people to come out of their units and interact and engage. And to that end, we established nearly 15,000 square feet of outdoor open space for people to engage in. And then if you were to look a little bit closer here, that doesn't count the community center, so that's community center space on top of that. And then you can count the landscaping space. So when you add it all up, it's nearly 23,000 square feet altogether. When we then look at this little central courtyard here, I'll give you a better view right there. That's what it looks like. And just as to orient you, this is where the community center is. The 2 residential buildings are here. There's a gallery that separates the residential piece from the community piece to provide a little bit of spatial differentiation and a little bit of security for the residential units. But here you see we have a raised bed community garden to help our seniors with their nutrition, stretch their dollars a little further. We have a community garden shed to help them with convenience for when they do garden. When they're done cooking, they can come grill over here at the barbecue, hang out, eat at the fire pit right here. All of this is designed to get folks out and moving about. Right here is an arcade, and into that arcade is the community room. It's the back side of the community room. And all together here, that community room is right there. That's the front of it. So you can see it really runs the length of that dog leg right there that's going out to Sonora. What you'll know is that one of the things we're very excited about is actually this community room is 3,500 square feet. That is an incredibly large amount of space. For a community room, for a project of this size, typically you'd see about 1,000 square feet. And we felt that this was not just important, but absolutely critical, as Sid will tell you a little bit later about the programming that we're going to provide there. But there will be multiple gathering rooms in there, case management rooms, meeting rooms for appointments, computer lounge, all sorts of places for seniors to gather. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sid.
Thank you, Cindy. When it comes to these type of social services that we provide in our communities, we believe that it's important that they be life-enriching. And in doing that, then, we've learned through experience and through research that in order to provide those services, you have to care about people. And one of the nice things about our partnership is that LINK and CORE and Hope Through Housing, we believe in providing services that transform lives and communities, and everything revolving around dignity and respect. And so when it comes to the services, then we meet the needs of our residents by getting to know them, and they're all customized. And it follows what we've known is as a hierarchy of needs. We have to start with the basic needs, and as you see there, we identify what some of those are. But included in that are meal programs, whether it be on-site and delivered, or whether it be through some of the resources that you already provide in the city. But it's that partnership of bringing it all open to everyone. Nutrition programs, and Food Bank of Southern California is already one of our partners identified for this particular community. When it comes to physical and mental health, the health management services, it's coordinated case management, meeting again the individual needs of our seniors and of our residents. And in doing that, then everything is age appropriate, and it's also health condition appropriate. And the reason I make that distinction is that sometimes when we say that we offer Zumba and yoga and things like that, there's sometimes it's like, well, wait a minute though, but can they handle it? Everything is done according to the needs of the residents, and so it's all done at the appropriate level. And then with social connectedness, it's not just an ice cream social. We have learned and we know that if we can get the residents out of the apartment into the community and engage, they are happier. And by being happier, they're participating in activities, and their livelihood just means more. Their spirit is enhanced, and they maintain this dignity and respect that is extremely important to us. And so some of the things that we do for that is also teaching them to be self-sufficient and as independent as possible. So things that we have are, and you do this as well as a city, the chat groups, getting them to come together in order to be able to talk and to interact, self-advocacy strategies, lip reading, self-discovery through art and through writing. So all of these programs on social connectedness aimed, again, at helping them to age in place with dignity and with respect. And so then when we started to look at what partners we can utilize in order to provide the services, these are just some of the ones that we've already spoken to. But one of the things that we realized is that a lot of services exist. And if you notice here on the map, they're also south of the 134. And so we thought, how can we get this community engaged? We know the location of parks and the proximity, but your excellent services through your bus and your public transportation, through Dial-A-Ride, help us to provide then the opportunity for these residents to get out into the community, participate in some of your programs that you have at the rec center and at also Pacific Park. But then also for those that aren't able to go out, then our partner CareMore, the Senior Health Center at CareMore, we use them at some of our other senior communities. And so they can come in-house to the community and provide additional case management, health and wellness management, nutrition. They do Medi counseling, meaning helping the seniors to understand Medi-Cal and Medicare, and make sure that they're using those services at an optimum level. Our broader collaboration and partners, sometimes there's very particular and specific needs in the communities. And so in doing that, then we have over 200 partners that we use in our portfolio, ready as well to come for very specific needs should that need arise. And then designed for aging in place. This is something that's really important to us. We bring design and services together into community and really identify and focus on what's needed for wellness, for well-being, and for overall health. And again, a common theme for us is everything with dignity and with respect. And we believe that open space is important. And so this space has SUNY identified where we can walk and we can interact and feel connected, but in a safe environment, in an environment that's theirs, and an environment in which they can use with each other and then with their family and with their friends. And the best way to describe what that looks like is I'm going to read to you just a couple of quotes out of the newspaper in the Inland Empire at one of our properties. And this is from a resident named Judy Brady. And she says, "I can't stop pinching myself. At 73 with a litany of health issues, Judy never figured she would have the opportunity to live in a community as high class as the fountains at Sierra. I was living a very unstable life and never thought in my wildest dreams that I would end up here. This is my castle. I can go out to my patio, I can see my pool and the trees, and it's more peaceful here than you can imagine. A 60-year resident of Fontana, she sees the fountains as a part of a bigger community transformation. I've seen what's around here, and I've seen this city grow. And this is class in Fontana. And I can't even begin to describe to you how happy I am. We look forward to being able to provide this type of an environment for residents here, for seniors here in Glendale. And at the appropriate time, we can answer questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you've heard from Sid about the importance of our social responsibility. We also believe we have an environmental responsibility here. So you can see that we're committed in terms of our LEED certified, and this project will be at least gold or platinum. We also have, as I mentioned, Core does construction, and we can do both our own in-house construction as well as construction management. It gives you some very tight quality and cost control. Over 390 units in the last 3 years, currently $80 million under construction. So let's talk about the project financing. You see here it's very simple, it's very clean. There's a private loan on the debt, on the property, which is the permanent debt. There is the city land loan, which would come from the contribution of the property that we're talking about from the Housing Authority, and that we would take back a residual, you would take back a residual receipts loan that we would repay over 55 years. A very small amount from the Federal Home Loan Bank, and then the bulk of it, as you can see, $15 million of a $23 million project in the tax credit equity. We're very excited about this because what this does is this actually finances a very low income project. It serves a community of extremely low and very low income individuals. Nearly half of our units are below 45% of area median income, which we believe is very important for meeting the needs of the residents here. Now, I want you to pay attention to this $15 million number. We'll come back to that later. This is the timeline. Really, the only major discretionary funding source before we apply for tax credits is the city's contribution of the land. You all hold the keys to when and whether and how quickly this project moves under the financing scenario that we have proposed. There is no additional financing source other than the tax credits, because actually the Federal Home Loan Bank loan can come in after we break ground on the construction, and it's a relatively small amount, so we can work with that. So what that means is that we can actually fast track this, and we can receive our tax credits by the end of next year, break ground next year, and 2018, be complete by 2019, and moving in and providing not just housing, but services to the community and the community at large. Now, all of these plans and these timelines don't matter if you can't secure the tax credits. That's really what this all depends on, right? None of the proposals you hear today will work unless you can secure the tax credits. And so this is actually an area that we're quite proud of. We're very good at securing tax credits. That's what we do. And this is just our track record. Last year, we received 25% of all the tax credit awards, the 9% tax credit awards, the one that funds 70% of your project. We received a quarter of those that were given in LA County. We've won 17 of them in recent years, and 15 of those were won in the first try. So if you want to stick to that timeline that I showed you earlier, you want to win on the first try. Altogether, if we look at the funding applications that we've received in just the last year, we submitted for 15 applications, and we received 14 of them. So just to wrap, really, I think you've heard a little bit about our benefits. We have a proven track record. It's a very simple financing scheme. If you all decide to go, we're ready to submit for tax credits and get on that schedule immediately. There's no additional city subsidy required beyond the land contribution. And then the services and vertical integration. I want to talk about the two things that I really think set us apart are, first, that we are really community-focused, senior-focused in particular. We took a good look at what was required in the community and really took efforts to bring that to bear. We set aside a very large space. We designed the community center for that. We went out, reached out into the local community, brought partners in. That's in our DNA. Core and Link partnered. We're going to work with your local community service providers as partners. We're going to work with all of you as partners. We think that any proper senior property really does have to have 2-bedroom units in it because seniors age in place and they need caregivers. And so we dedicated 10% of our units to being 2-bedroom units. You really want to have that so that your seniors can really stay there and you can continue taking advantage of those benefits. And finally, what we do is we go above and beyond what is required. You offered us a site. We looked at it. We said, what would be better for the community? What else can we bring? What else can we do? What is the bigger picture? We went and we started securing additional sites. Let me just finish. And the other piece is you said you wanted community benefits. We really went out and engaged the community, bringing services to this area. So I'm really looking forward to potentially partnering with you. Thank you again for taking the time to listen to us, and we're very excited about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my colleagues have any questions?
I have a couple.
Yes, Mr. Najarian?
Thank you for your presentation. The community center will be open to the community at large or the community in your housing development?
It will be open to both. So we would provide services locally within the community, and then we would open up to the community at large. We would invite service providers from all those other service centers that you saw to come and provide their services there and open up.
Okay. And what do you do? Thank you for the spreadsheet, the very simple finance slide. What will you do if there's a cost overrun in the construction, as oftentimes there is? Will you come back to the city for help on that, or is that something that you're going to absorb yourself in your business?
Well, as I mentioned, one of the benefits of being vertically integrated and having our in-house general contractor is that we're able to manage costs. And even if we were to use an external contractor, we are very dialed into that, and we are able to work with that. We've also worked with our particular architect, RRM, Duddy Pickard is here, very closely. So it's a very tight collaboration to make sure that we design within cost standards. The other thing that we do is that we have in reserve, you'll notice that even though your presentation mentioned that tax credits will pay for up to 70% of the project, we're only at 65%. So if we had an overrun, we would partner with our tax credit provider, see if we can generate some additional equity in order to pay for that. So we do believe that there's some extra room in there to be able to manipulate a little bit, perhaps that's the wrong word, but to be able to really, if there were cost overruns, to be able to do that. But I think the heart of it really comes down to this clean and tight execution that I mentioned.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Harpetian?
Yes. What is the total square footage of your project? Is it 49,500 square feet? Am I writing this correctly?
I will need the design for that, or maybe let's get our architect up here.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, and Council members. My name is Detlev Pikert. I'm with RRM Design Group, the architect for the project. And yes, the number is 47,000 square feet. It's the total square footage of the building.
47,000?
I'm sorry, 49,000 square feet, 49,500.
And that includes the 3,500 square
Yes.
foot recreation area? Because I was doing the math. I mean, the 59 one-bedrooms are 600 square foot each, and what else do we have besides the recreation area and the units? Are there any other structures?
In terms of additional amenity spaces?
Right.
Yeah, the primary amenity space is the community center, 3,500 square feet. That's common. It's available to all of the residents. Additionally, of course, we have the courtyard area outside and the amenities that are part of that, which, as you can see, include barbecue area, outdoor sitting areas, community garden, etc.
But that's not part of that 49,500 square feet.
No.
Okay.
That's the building.
Okay.
Just the building.
Because I'm doing the math here. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't have my calculator.
I'm sorry. I think that the other aspect of that, of course, is the circulation. Because the building's designed, as you can see on the slide up there, as double-loaded corridors. So you have corridors, stairwells, and other sort of circulation and ancillary spaces that are part of any kind of building of this nature.
So that's included.
Included in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I wanted to know how much of a living space do you have altogether?
The residential units?
About 40,000 square feet altogether. Am I correct? Okay, so, but 40,000 square feet and but 9,500 square foot of circulation area. Because I wanted to come down to, at the end, maybe we can discuss the numbers. I mean, the total project cost is about $22,800,000 minus $6 million of land. That's about $16 million all in, soft cost and hard cost. And I wanted to know what the price per square foot is coming up to for an affordable housing project. That's why I wanted to know how much of a space do we, how much of a building, living space, square footage do we have, okay? And if you are able to purchase that corner lot and make that 82 units, total units, there is no additional cost to the city if we can do that, am I correct?
I'll have.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
If you are able to purchase that corner lot, the properties that you made an offer on,
yes,
and make this instead of 65 units to 82 units, there is no additional cost to the city. Am I correct?
There should not be. We would pay for it through additional tax credits as well as the additional debt that could be supported by those units.
And when is the deadline for your tax credits and 9% tax credit? Is it
we are
next
targeting
year?
March of next year.
March of next year. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Ms. Devine?
You mentioned 40,000 open space, green
Yes.
space. Is the
Now, there's,
what are you calling as
let's see here.
I'm sorry, can you, I'll repeat the question. You mentioned 14,670 square feet of outdoor open space, and I only see on the drawing the small courtyard. Can you tell me what other open space? I mean, doesn't seem to be a park of any sort or a sitting area unless it's in between the buildings?
This is designed, and I'll take a pass at this, and if Debbie, if you want to add anything else, feel free. The primary, hold on, see if I can get a mouse going here. So the primary space is here. That is the central plaza. But you'll note that one thing that we have learned from our many communities that we've built, senior communities, is it's really important also to have small nooks and crannies for people to gather and have little more intimate, private conversations, but to still be outdoors and take in the sun, get a little vitamin D. So we have this space. We have this gathering area here, this courtyard for people to gather in, and there's some patios and balconies. This actually is a front porch that has been laid out, and there's the number 7 there, but we don't have the legend on it, but it is a front porch designed for people to gather. This here is a paseo, and if you recall, this entire building right here is the community room. So this paseo is going to be, there's going to be a way in and outdoors there, as well as windows and also seating areas for people here and to gather, also to walk along. Underneath number 2 here is an arcade and actually a place for people to gather as well. And so once you add this all up, it doesn't look like a lot when you just look at it, but when you actually add it all up and you consider all the smaller places that we're putting together for folks to gather, to socialize, it does come out to 14,600 square feet.
According to the legend, number 2 is the arcade.
This is number 2 right here. And that 2 that you see right here is a 2-bedroom unit.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Are there elevators? This may seem, I only saw one elevator in one building. Is there an elevator in every one of these?
Yes, there are 2 elevators.
2?
Yes.
What about in this building?
Is there 3? 3 or 2?
Be served by a walkway.
Yes, and there's a walkway here. I'll show you this way. So this is the arcade that I mentioned. Mm-hmm. This is the 2-bedroom over here, and then there's an elevator and then a walkway that, as I said, connects the 2 buildings. Mm-hmm. So they'll be able to access everything.
Okay. On the floor plan, I don't know if you have a slide for that or not. There's some kind of, as you open the door for I'm just looking.
Oh, we do not have the floor plan slide.
You claim it's 600 square feet. Is that living space or is that gross?
That, I believe, Debbie, do you want to answer that one?
Typically, that will be gross square footage of the unit, including...
So the living space is a little smaller than...
If you actually took the inside face of the walls, it'd probably come out to about 550 square feet for the one-bedroom apartment, and maybe 750 for the two-bedroom apartment. But again, this is still a conceptual phase of work, and there's a certain amount of flexibility, of course, built into that.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Ms. Barazzi?
My question is about timeline. The completion is the first half of 2019. Am I correct?
It is I believe the middle, but let's pull it up here. Middle of 2019.
Middle.
Yes.
So, but if you buy the corner lot, so will it take longer?
Well, we're working. It takes us time to entitle the whole process and then to put together all the studies and the analysis required for the tax credit application. So it's actually good for us that the next tax credit round is in March. So it does give us a little bit of time to take the corner lots as well and assimilate that into the project and still stay on track.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, I have one question about, it's Caramore is your social service agency?
We are partnering with several, actually. They're one of them.
Okay. First, I'm glad you mentioned social isolation in senior buildings. It's a huge issue, huge problem. The other thing I'm wondering about is who is this staffed by? Who's your social service agency staffed by? Is it licensed clinical social workers? So I'm just kind of curious, do they address like mental health issues and also issues with alcohol? Other huge problems in senior buildings?
Sure. The partners such as Caramore or other type of providers that we have, they do have licensed professionals. And then we have, through our staff as well, case management staff. They're not the licensed psychologist or anything like that, but they're trained in order to handle case management, and especially for senior communities. And your comment about alcohol addiction or any type of addiction or anything like that, yes. We know that can happen with medicine, and that's why having the on-site property management and the on-site social services staff really plays a big role in getting to know them.
Okay.
But we believe as they're our family and we are their family.
Okay, sounds good.
I just want to make another comment that I was happy to see peace over violence. Because a lot of times in the elderly there is domestic violence and other types of violence, so that's another...
Yeah, and again, that's key in getting to know our residents and being on that first-name basis with them and having the on-site presence.
And if I could just add on top of that, that is really a major distinction that I don't think you're going to see with a lot of other service providers, because we do focus on, if you look at these 4 categories, they are what is essential to health, well-being, and living a rich life. This isn't, as Sid said, it's not an ice cream social. This is not bingo. Our services really provide what is absolutely essential to residents as they age in place, both in this development as well as in the broader community. And I think if I had to sum it up, that really is the vision of our site, is to not just build housing, but to build a real community with services that really address the needs of the people who are living there in an area where it's a little bit underserved, actually. Thank you.
Okay, I'll ask a couple of questions. So, according to the presentation, first of all, thank you for a very thorough presentation, a nice project that you've brought forward. And you said that you're currently in negotiations to possibly purchase the neighboring 2 lots and sort of maximize the space, and as a result of which you'd be able to provide more units. If that happens, all this math that you've presented is going to go haywire, right? I mean, it's going to be very different as a result.
Not quite haywire, but it would change.
Okay.
Accordingly.
It would shift accordingly, as Sid so eloquently stated. The cost would go up, but then again, remember the tax credits would also go up because it's a percentage roughly based. And then also because you're able to put units there. Those units generate rent, albeit low-income rents, but they do generate some rent, and they're able to support some additional debt. And then we might be able to pull together a little bit more equity, push instead of at 65%, try and get closer to 70%. So we think we'd be able to finance it. The numbers will change. I think the more the question that ought to be asked is, will it still be feasible? And so I would say the numbers will change, but it will still be feasible.
It will be feasible.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to ask this question of each one of the, what do you call it, developer or applicant that's going to come in front of us. If the council requires that 10% of these units are for disabled individuals, so I guess there's certain alterations have to be made, would that somehow change anything? I mean, would that be a problem for you?
It would not be a problem for us because we actually, as you saw, something we've already designed for. Let's see. Universal design, paths of travel designed for unobstructed mobility, handrails and grab bars, easy-to-use fixtures, and disability access. We understand that seniors, over time, lose function. It's just a natural part of the aging process. And so we would be more than happy to accommodate that.
I will not claim to have expertise on this. That seems like sort of a general compatibility with disability that comes along with age. Is that not different from disabled as a category, so developmentally disabled or physically disabled?
Yes.
I would think those are two specifically.
And we can actually, I'm glad you asked the follow-up question, because our commitment to serving those with special needs goes much deeper than just physical design. Currently, we have 3 projects in our pipeline that are for actually homeless or vets or people who are disabled. We have a developmentally disabled project where we've partnered with the regional center. The Tax Credit Allocation Committee has recently set aside a set of tax credits for physically disabled, so we'd be able to access that. There is the state that has the 811 program that provides subsidies for physically disabled, and so these are all programs that we're intimately aware of because we've put them in place at other places, and that would enable us to not only fund those projects because we can demonstrate the track record and the experience with it, but we also understand how to work with the residents there and how to partner with the right agencies because, as I mentioned, we don't just build. We really address the needs of the residents who live there.
And quickly, we also have in our portfolio special needs type of communities. We've partnered with the appropriate agencies to provide the wraparound services to make sure that they're taken care of, in essence, 24/7.
Okay, so what I take from that is that not only will you not be impacted by such a requirement if it were to arise, but you'd welcome it because you'd have the infrastructure and the services present on the grounds.
It's part of our commitment of meeting the needs of the community.
It's one of the benefits you get from
one of your team members.
It's one of the benefits you get from having 2 nonprofits that partnered together to do this.
So Byron Ely with National Corps. As a general contractor, we also have the ability to adapt these units along the way. And if there's a need to do a roll-in shower or additional accommodation, we're able to do that very quickly at a pretty reasonable cost so that we can provide the needs for those particular residents.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
In just a moment, I'll bring the next group in.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much. I'm waiting for staff to bring in the next entity. Adobe? I think they're being ushered in separately. So.
Pacific.
Oh, it's Pacific?
It's up.
This is the Pacific companies.
Grab that from you.
Clicker's right there.
All right, great. Well, members of the City Council, thank you for having me. My name's Caleb Roop, and I'm the CEO and president of the Pacific Companies, and it's our privilege to be here today to do a presentation for you. So I know you guys are a little off the pace maybe, but I'll just be brief and move through things for you here. So I just want to start by a little bit about what we do as a company. We are primarily an affordable housing developer, senior family housing, supportive housing for the homeless, special needs. But we also do public school facilities is another offer we make, and we also build market rate multifamily housing. Within our company, we're vertically integrated, so we have financing, internal and external capital sources, architecture and construction. We manage all of our properties from an asset management perspective, and then we have an insurance company as well. But we often work with outside architects, local architects in particular, that help us with various projects we do. About 50 people in our staff, and we have emergency succession planning in place if something ever happens to any key executives. So I personally have been involved in about 200 projects, and our portfolio is 156 properties. We build about 15 projects a year on average, and about 435,000 square feet of retail space, and about $2 billion in asset value produced over the course of roughly a 16-year period there, 17 years. And then every year we participate in the national survey for the largest developers in the country, and we always end up in the top 10 as a general rule. This is just a graphical depiction of our growth since we founded the company in 1998 in terms of assets and in terms of value. Again, over $2 billion in value produced. And this is the geographic distribution of where our portfolio is. We have most of our assets in California, but we have properties as far as Minnesota and Texas that we've done, both schools and housing projects, both affordable and market rate. And then I show you this slide just so you get a picture of the type of company we are from a financial perspective. We average about $92 million in revenues in just our development and construction company. And that doesn't count our portfolio, which is about another $150 million or so in revenues. But we produce an NOI of about $10 million a year on average, and have done that consistently even through the recession. And I show this only from the perspective of when you pick a partner, that there's sustainability and viability in their capabilities as an owner-operator of affordable housing. And then this is our working capital, about 50, 60 million at any one time. Just to give you an idea, and then these are some of our equity relationships here, all the big banks and insurance companies you guys know and work with. About 110 million in capital we've raised, just ourselves, not from institutional sources that have been deployed in schools and housing projects. And then this is just a couple shots. I'm just showing you two pictures, not to spend a lot of time on pictures, but I just want to show you the diversity of architecture that we do. This is a mountain resort community in Truckee, California, and more of a garden-style two-story walk-up product. And then this is an urban project in Sacramento area, 4 stories over a concrete podium deck. And mainly I'm just showing you two ends of a spectrum that are quite different, and we've got the capabilities to pretty much do any type of project. So I'm going to move into the specifics of the project here for a minute and talk about just the design that we came up with. I really want to just focus on the amenities because most of your stuff is in your package, but whenever we do senior housing, we're always focused on the quality of life for the residents living there. And this dog park here is one of the key features. We see more and more elderly want to have pets in their home, and so we've made accommodations for that at all times. Small animals generally, but dog parks are really handy to have. In the courtyard area on the first deck of the project, there's a barbecue and seating areas. There's activity rooms. So much the services that'll be provided on the property, it's essential that you have the adequate space for that. Community gardens we found to be an outstanding amenity. We love building those. They get used all the time, especially by the elderly. So these are just some ground level amenities. And then within the units, washers and dryers as a standard offering. And then we've also found that just having the trash be convenient for them is a big issue, especially for seniors and sort of hauling trash. So we have trash chutes on every floor, conveniently situated. And then the community courtyard within the one of the decks is seating, fireplace, etc. Just something that really makes some nice areas for gathering and that kind of stuff. So fitness rooms, more courtyards, more rooftop space, wherever we can get amenities for seniors to have, we do that. So I'm going to bring up R.C. Alley next, and he's going to do some work with you on just some of the architecture that we've been working on and get some initial impressions. R.C., you want to come up?
Thanks. Good afternoon. My name is R.C. Alley with Architects Orange. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm just going to talk about the architectural style of the project. Basically, I've got our site plan here, and I wanted to talk about a little bit about what's going on around the project, the current architectural vocabulary or building style that's been proposed for the project, and some potential revisions and modifications that we may discuss. Anyway, so here's our site, and here's the adjacent project to us that's now under construction, I believe. This project, it's a much more contemporary project than the neighborhood itself. And I will tell you, this was the original inspiration for the original design of the project, which was a more contemporary project, which to correspond with this adjacent project. In talking to, and this is the original concept, again, very contemporary. In talking to internally between ourselves and talking to staff, we understand that there may be a preference to do something that's a little more traditional. So we have stepped back and we've studied, again, what's in the surrounding neighborhood, especially on 5th Street, in terms of comparable scale projects, in terms of vocabulary of those projects. And what we found is that there are a lot of different projects. I would say none of them what I call to be landmark architecture. They're older projects. They're very, again, they're nothing as great as what you're doing in your city today. They're all older projects, but we wanted to do a survey so we really understood what was there so we can see how to fit in within the neighborhood. Obviously, we're very familiar with what's going on in the city right now. The upper two projects are projects that my firm has done. The lower projects are projects that are currently being built in the city, and again, are landmark architecture projects. We looked for inspiration also with other projects that are similar scale, that are a little more traditional, that we thought may fit better with the neighborhood. We looked to this product type, Irving Gill project. We thought would be very appropriate. It's a great combination of contemporary, modern lines and cleanliness, but with very traditional, applied in a very traditional manner. So we have taken a look at revising the project, potentially. What we know, what I know from working with staff in the city is that it's an evolving process. We're gonna walk in, we're gonna talk with staff about the vocabulary and architecture of the project, and we'll generally work with staff to come up with something that staff and the city and we feel is proper for that particular location. So again, we stepped back. We felt that something like this may be a little more fitting into the existing neighborhood, which is again very traditional based. But by no means, we realize it's a process. It's an iterative process. You can see it's a very high quality project. We think it's clean, but it has, again, very traditional forms, a lot of articulation up at the upper roof levels, pitched roofs. It does step back and it has we think, a very soft street presence. This is another view as well. It shows the upper roof deck. You can see, again, the texture of the trellis elements. We think this would be very appropriate for the neighborhood as well.
So this is just a quick summary of what we're proposing, single 4-story building with all the green efficiency measures you can imagine. We've programmed 69 units, which we think is a good mix for this property at those income targetings, and then the amenities and the services we've kind of already went over. Oops, there we go. So financing real quick, I just want to point out a couple things. For starters, we as a practice, we always defer all of our project revenues. We don't take any developer fees or earnings until all of the risk is gone. And so we build the project with that in mind, not taking any of our compensation until the end of the project. And the other thing I would just point out is that we're not going to be asking for any other consideration or financial help from other state agencies or the city. We feel that the contribution of the land and its value is way sufficient to be successful in the tax credit program that this project will rely upon. And then this is just kind of a depiction of development costs there. So a couple things I would just point out is that one of the things I see as an opportunity, given how competitive the 9% tax credits are, is we feel there might be a chance for the housing authority or the city to realize some proceeds from the transaction, from the land sale, and not necessarily contribute it all back to the project. And this is what we proposed in our initial submittal. And the virtue of that is that perhaps that money can be used for something else in the city, some other affordable housing endeavor. And this will become a business decision, should we be chosen to work with, about whether or not we want to maybe only have $5 million in public subsidy as opposed to $6 million, and save $1 million, and maybe not be as competitive, but be competitive enough. And what we spend our time doing is assessing our capabilities in any given tax credit round to make sure we can win. And if I'm just advising you as a financial person, I always say try to do it with less so that you guys can keep some of the money for some other project you might want to do. But if we want to have assurances it's going to happen, then we go for the full value. Like, that's the business decision that gets made. This is really just more of a depiction of all of the 9% tax credit projects that we've won in the past 5 years. And I don't think there's another firm in the country that's gotten as many California 9% tax credit awards. This only includes California, by the way. It doesn't include the other states that we win 9% awards. But as you can see, that we're quite robust in this space, and I think that's one of the major things for you to consider when you look at who to partner with. And from my point of view, you got a lot of great firms. In my view, I know a lot of the firms you're considering, and there's a lot of them that can do this job. But I think what we do bring to the table is an ability to have some very good assurances that we can win in the competition for a limited resource, which is the tax credits. So in summary, I think I would stress that it's our ability to execute on the 9% tax credit side. We can do things and jump out ahead on the architecture and engineering, spend our own money and resources getting out ahead of the program so that when we do get an award of tax credits, we can execute quickly. So stepping out ahead of things, using our own capital and investing our own capital. And then I think the big opportunity might be just a chance for the housing authority to realize some proceeds from this, and we can make that call at that time. The only other thing I would just point out is that in our original submittal, we showed all the years of the rankings in the nation of our development, and this is kind of key to pay attention to with regard to new construction versus acquisition rehab. And so nationally, they rank the developers every year. In 2015, ranking hadn't come out yet, but we were number 6 in the country and number 1 in California, just to give you a benchmark. And we've got that document to hand out if you guys care to see that. But I think we offer just an assurance of execution, the ability to win those tax credits, which is always a challenge, and then finally an opportunity to earn some cash. So with that, I'll stand down and try to keep it short and let you guys ask any questions if you have any. All right? Thank you very much.
Yes, you indicated how many tax credit was awarded to you? How many projects? You showed in your slide, but...
Yeah, 28 projects in the past 5 years.
28?
Yeah, 9% tax credit projects.
9%. And how many proposals did you have? How many submittals did you have?
In any given year, well, they all eventually get funded. But I think on average, we'll submit maybe 8, and we'll in any given year, and we'll get between 4 and 6 of them awarded on average. And each region is different. In LA County, the applications we've submitted, we've gotten 100% of those. But in the rural parts of the state, sometimes it's 1 out of every 2 or something like that.
So 28 out of 40. Okay. I may have a few questions from your architect.
Sure. Would you like to do those now?
Yes.
Okay.
Read this thing. Hi, thanks for being here. The community room and the community garden in the front facing 5th Street, is there a wall where that community garden is, separating it from the street?
It is right here.
You got it there? Yeah. Maybe so they can see.
Yeah.
Mine is slide A 3.1.
Yeah.
8.3.1, not slide, but it's architectural page 3.1.
Right there.
Here we go. I'll just leave it up there like that. Yes, there is. There has to be a privacy wall basically between the street and the community garden. So yes, sir, there is.
So there's a wall.
Yes.
And also that barbecue area and that there's a wall.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And it's like a 5-foot wall or a 6-foot wall?
I don't know if we've discussed the detail. It would probably be at minimum. It would be probably a 42-inch high wall.
Right.
We may do a 42-inch high wall, maybe with the glass barrier on top of it, just so we have privacy for the residents.
Okay. And off the top of your head, can you tell me what the total square footage of the project is?
I can, because I have a slide that tells me what it is.
I was going to read in here. Let's see.
Yeah, it's about 45,700 feet in total.
45,700, and this is living space, or it includes the?
That's the rentable residential space.
45,700.
Yes, sir.
Square foot. Okay. Other unit next. Okay, that's all I have at this point. Thank you.
Mr. Najarian?
I just have one question at this point. Tell us how we get $1 million back.
So right now, we've estimated a land value of roughly $6 million. That could be more or less, but we'll do an appraisal, obviously, and figure out that number. The value of $6 million is what helps us win the 9% tax credits. That's just the way the program works today. But there's nothing that says that $5 million can't get it done. And so in that situation, let's say the land's valued at $6 million, and right now in our proposal, we're saying you're going to sell us the land for $6 million, and you're going to carry back a note for $6 million, and that $6 million of note you carry back is public subsidy, and that gets us the points for the competition. Well, if you instead you kept $1 million in cash, and you only gave us a note for $5 million, I think that $5 million is still enough to be successful in the competition for the 9% tax credits.
Why can't you just put it at $6 million and pay us $1 million back quickly?
Well, because then it wouldn't be a contribution to the project from the point of view of the state agency that allocates the tax credits.
And yes, one more question. As far as I know, there's a fierce competition on this 9% tax credit. And if I have a project, let's say 60 units, and my project cost is $20 million, and the next project is 60 units and the project cost is $18 million, who has a better chance of getting that 9% tax credit?
Generally, the lower cost projects in that limited situation would have a little bit better chance. But the way the competition really works is it favors the public subsidy part of the equation more than the efficiency part of the equation. So the efficiency is not as valuable. It's devalued by basically 2/3, whereas the public contribution portion of the competition is much more valuable. So you'll see that there's a natural incentive for developers to encourage more public subsidy in their project, whether they need it or not, because that helps them win the competition.
But if the public subsidy is the same for both projects, the one which is less,
the one that's a little bit less would have a little bit of an advantage. That's right.
Got it. Thank you.
It also depends on the number of units they were building, because next year there's a change in the equation which will favor projects that are greater than 50 units. They'll get a little bit of a boost. And so if there's a difference between the number of units between those two projects, then there would be an advantage to that larger project, per se. But if the units are the same, the subsidy is the same, and those costs are slightly different, the little bit lower costing project would have the advantage.
Just a follow-up question on that. If the units are the same, but the square footages are different, that may increase the cost of one developer versus the other. Some may decide to build a little bit larger units instead of, I don't know, 600 square foot, one bedroom, build a 700 square foot. Would they consider that as well, or they just consider the number of units?
They don't give regard to the square footage of the property. They only regard the units in the scoring system.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, Mayor Devine?
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading the plans because nothing's labeled, and so I don't know where anything is except by looking at your
Let's see if we can get
your
through it
drawing.
there.
How many square footage of open space do you have? Is it just the courtyard?
Let's go here to that little slide. I'm learning your thing here, so. Almost there. Okay. So the interior common areas are about 2,600 square feet, and the exterior common areas are about 7,800 square feet.
Okay, the interior is?
Like the fitness center, the community room, those kinds of
inside. I'm talking about open space, green space, park space. You have the dog park, but what else do you have?
You know, there's not a lot of room for open space on this property, quite frankly. It just is really the open space is on the courtyards. So I don't think we have the calculation of the courtyard space. We might. Let me see if that's in that number. I bet you that's in that 7,800 square feet number, Mayor. I think so.
Okay. And
that's a common.
Yeah, I bet that's in there.
And let me see.
And that would not include the dog park space, though. That 7,800 would not include that. That would just be what's associated with the building.
Okay, and your square footage is for each unit is, you have 16 two-bedrooms. That's a lot. How big are those, and how big are the 53 one-bedrooms?
I'll get that for you.
You're saying average, and I'm just...
804 square feet.
On average, or
two-bedroom
is
is
it
804.
Is it on there?
Yeah, it's in the pro forma.
Okay. I'm sorry, I missed that.
So 620 for the ones and 804 for the twos.
Oh, I'm sorry. 620 for the, okay. And I'm assuming, again, I have to ask, elevators everywhere?
Yep.
For the elderly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kelly?
I'm also wondering about your service provider, who they are and what they do.
Sure. Well, Life Steps is our service provider, and they are very well regarded across the state. They serve, I'm not sure what their numbers are up to, but I want to say in the neighborhood of 30 to 40,000 residents at least. Their philosophy is to basically design a services program that takes care of the residents, and the only way to do that is to really get in there and get to know the residents. So they like to come in, survey everybody, talk to everybody, see what really their needs are, whether it's activities of daily living, whether it's something associated with just like crafts and skills and dexterity type issues. They like to get to know their resident profile and then start to offer services that tailor to them, and that's their standard. We also work with Link Cares on certain projects. They were just here, and they're a great partner of ours on some projects. Great company, and their services would be similar.
And your service provider is already plugged in here to two affordable communities we have here in Glendale?
Yes.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Parazian?
Okay, for the dog park, is this open for the whole community or for the tenant dogs?
Yeah, generally we would just keep it for the residents. If there was some compelling reason that the community needed something like that, that could be something we would modify, but for now we're just proposing for the residents.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Parazian. We're a little pressed for time, so I'm just going to ask you one last question. If you were to be required to provide, to have 10% of the units be compliant with individuals with disabilities, whatever those needs are, would that in any way impact your ability to deliver this project with the projections that you've made?
No, we've done, I'm not sure when you say they might be fully accessible, like for persons with physical disabilities or whether it's mental disabilities, but we've done supportive housing projects. We just finished one in Los Angeles for the city, and so whether it's using MHSA money for folks with mental health issues or whether it's full supportive housing for the homeless, we've done those kinds of projects, and it would not impact it, especially at 10% of the units, would not be a problem.
Okay.
One more question.
Mayor Devine?
Can you tell me that you say you have two projects here in Glendale?
No. Our service provider, Life Steps, has two properties in Glendale that they are the service provider on, and I don't have. I can get that to you if you'd like to have that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all we have. Thank you for the.
All right. Great. Well, thank you guys for having me.
may I have a question in between from the staff?
Yes, Ms. President,
Okay.
the staff.
My question is for the staff. When it says boat, for the boat rents include utilities, the utilities are just gas, electricity, not included the charter and the phone.
I think
right?
it is. I think it is all utilities, essential utilities. So I think it is just gas, electric, water. When you're talking about that 30%,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Another question for the parking. There is no underground parking, it's just surface parking for.
Some of them had different proposals, and I apologize. I left my packet
Just one
on
has
my desk.
structure parking.
I don't have it. When Mike returns, though, he can answer that question.
This one is everything that you're seeing this afternoon. I'm sorry, 4 of the 5 are surface lots.
parking,
There's only one that has a structure.
Structure parking.
So this particular project you just saw was featuring 35 surface parking spaces.
I have several, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Next up, we have Thomas Saffron and Associates. I'll bring Andrew Gross up.
I don't have Saffron.
Good afternoon. Hello. Just the roll. Thank you.
Welcome. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Please state your name for the record and start your presentation.
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Gross. I'm president of Thomas Saffron and Associates Development Company. It's really an honor to be here to present our vision for what we now know as Fifth and Sonora. Our vision is Sonora Village Green. So I'm going to spend a little time here taking you through who I have here. I have a team assembled. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Thomas Saffron and Associates. I know many of you know who we are, given we've done other developments here, and also recently had an open house for Veterans Village about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And then I'm going to get into our vision, what we have proposed here for, again, the site at 5th and Sonora. I guess a little context here. What we said we had to do when we were thinking about and contemplating what we were going to present to you, we really said, how can we provide flexibility? How can we provide some flexibility as it relates to both the architectural style and also the number of units? We got that it was really important, at least to us, that the site really maintain a green feel, hence the name Sonora Village Green, a park-like setting. Thomas Saffron Associates has a real emphasis on landscaping, and the question was, how do we create a really special development that really raises the bar? Our first project here was Gardens on Garfield. We did that probably 9 years ago, and that's a 30-unit family development. We just recently completed Veterans Village, which is a 40-unit, 100% veterans development. And we think we raised the bar on each of those developments. And really our goal here was, okay, how do we do a third development proposal that really even increases the bar above what we presented to you and you experienced at Veterans Village? So next slide here. So who are we? Again, my name is Andrew Gross. I'm president of Thomas Saffron Associates. I have here Cedric Morris, who's the project manager, and he's going to speak a little bit about the financings and answer any questions you have as to the timeline. I also have Elena Teisner, who's here, and she's with our management company. I think what is somewhat unique, I know other people have or submittals have their own management company. I think what is somewhat unique about us is we have our own management company. And with that management company, we operate it as a break-even. Why? Because we have hired third-party managers before, and the only way they make money is when they put the fewest number of people, employees, on the most number of projects. And we said, listen, if we're going to provide a development that is of really high caliber, we want to make sure that that's maintained into the long run. Again, our goal is to keep this affordable in perpetuity. And so we have Elena here who will speak. We also have Janine Evans, who will talk about some of the resident services we have that we could provide to the seniors. And it's really an intergenerational community. That's what we're proposing. How do we combine seniors with young people, and hence the park? We have a 6,000 square foot park included. How do we combine them and create spaces for them to interrelate? And then lastly, from our office, we have Jasmine Arakilian, who is the manager of Gardens and Garfield, and that just really represents, she was here in the previous presentation, she could speak to, if needed, just our really connection to Glendale. We're also honored to have Fred Fisher and his associates, David Ross and Jake Lazier, here. And Fred Fisher will speak as to the design, and he's an incredible architect, and we're really honored to have him. Just the caliber of aesthetic that he brings, we think will really, again, raise the bar. So, you've probably had I know you have two more after this, so we'll see if we can speed this up for you guys. Again, Sonora Village Green, we have two proposals. One's a 70-unit scheme and one's a 91-unit scheme. And there were two proposals. The only difference is we think we can do both of them. The 91-unit scheme has a subterranean garage. Because of that, it has a higher expense and price tag to it. So it would require an additional subsidy either from the city of Glendale or other soft money sources like cap and trade. That's what we proposed to have that project work. The 70-unit scheme, all we're asking for from the city of Glendale is the property itself for $1. What else are we providing? Again, the intergeneration and wellness for the community. This really is all about the community. That's what I think we do really well, and that's why if I'm in your shoes, what would you like in selecting a provider? It's someone who could work with this community to build a beautiful building at a density that makes sense, and it's also providing amenity to that community. And it's also making sure that we have another open house where people can really be really happy with the environment in which we produce. And that goes to the landscaping. So, I know many of you know this. This is our credo. I have it there, but our goal really is to enhance the world in which we live and to enrich the lives of the people who reside in our building. That is the hallmark of every decision we make. It's about the people and how do we enrich their lives. We believe a good reputation is really hard to come by. Ours is measured by our standards of integrity and honesty, the quality of our buildings, and the way we treat our residents. We could not do what we do without the trust of you, the public, and the people who serve the public. We believe the way we treat our residents will be returned to us exactly in kind. And, don't measure us by anything we say or produce here in a binder. Really measure us by what we do and produce in the buildings that we have. So, again, a little background on TSA. A few other projects. I know you might recognize Yolanda in that picture. Yolanda spoke at the open house for Veterans Village. And, I think that was really a special moment, at least for me, all the time that it takes really to do these buildings. And she really, just encapsulates what we do. I mean, it's for people exactly like Yolanda. So that's Veterans Village, which is 44 units of 100% veteran building. And then we also have Gardens on Garfield, which is 30 units, next to a park, by the way. All right, so as to project vision, I am going to invite our architect, Fred Fisher, up to speak about how we came to the scheme which we're providing to you, the two schemes, the 70 and the 91 units, and then also describe a little bit about the three different choices of style of architecture. And we're really, curious which one you all like. So, Fred?
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mayor Devine and council members. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to propose to work on this project with TSA. I've known Tom Safran since we were both in graduate school together at UCLA, and I can't think of a developer of higher quality projects more committed to the long-term value in the community. And that's why we believe that their mission and ours are about the same. Our mission statement is improving life through architecture. We have a set of goals that derive from our mission and that look at this project. All our work, which is nationally known, is developed out of the unique chemistry of a place, of a population, and of an idea for the project. So we don't cookie cutter, we don't throw in things. If you look at our portfolio, you'll see a tremendous variety, and that comes from that chemistry of collaboration, which we truly believe in. The goals for this project, which we have talked about, are creating a community connection in a positive and shared experience, contribute amenities for the inhabitants and the local community, preserve open spaces with parks and gardens, something which TSA's projects are known for, providing intimate, porous, transparent scaled buildings on 5th and Sonora, consider sustainable design throughout the project. We have a high level of experience in sustainability. We're doing one of the first public buildings in the country for Living Building Challenge, the addition to the Santa Monica City Hall. It will be the highest level of sustainability, far beyond LEED. And thinking of well-being and value to all throughout the project, balancing quality and affordability, and embracing the future with creativity. Glendale as a creative community. So starting with the site, we looked at what is the potential buildable envelope, and immediately looking at that notion that we share with TSA of creating a garden-like environment. And so we, first of all, felt that the intergenerational park, number one, on Sonora, would be close to Glen Oaks, and that area of the site is actually too narrow to do decent quality units in with the setbacks. So we saw that as the ideal location for the public park. Number two, a residence meditation garden where the buildings connect, so that puts some light and air into the center, the knuckle of the buildings. And three, a wellness courtyard for the residents. And the setbacks, there's a 14-foot setback required. We feel it should be larger, so we're showing a 20-foot setback to give, which is a benefit for the neighbors, and it gives more light and air to these units. There's a playground for intergenerational activity on Sonora, and a public community room within that park. The resident community room is in this domestically scaled one-story building on 5th Street, which is essentially like a house for the residents, and that notion of eyes on the street, connecting the residents to the life on the street of the community, and yet with their own semi-private wellness courtyard beyond that. Light and views, capturing the views to the mountains in both directions, taking careful account of the movement of the sun throughout the day. And so this is our base proposal. The 70 units in two elements, three-story elements, with the one-story element on 5th Street and the public community park with its community room on Sonora. So the values are wellness and vitality with an exercise room, food garden, stairs with views, light and air, meditation courtyard, and a walking loop around the building, all contributing to wellness as TSA believes in creating an environment that will enhance the longevity of its residents. Community, intergenerational community park, inviting the community in, young people, people with families. That connection to those to seniors is a life-enhancing, life-prolonging kind of integration. So that's an intergenerational park with a public community room, resident community spaces, outdoor barbecue seating, outdoor seating with barbecue. And finally, mobility. Ride-share spaces, pedestrian path to Glen Oaks through the community garden, covered entry for drop-off and arrival. And that's a total of 25,000 square feet of green space on this site. So this is the notion of intimate scale on the street. The view on 5th Street, the one-story community room, which is really house-scaled, connecting to the domestic scale of that neighborhood, and then set back and then wrapping around the back parts of the site is the 3-story units. Sod options. So as I said, we don't come into this with a preconceived idea, this is what your project should be. We need a chance to work with you, the Housing Authority, community development, and the neighborhood to see what's appropriate. So we are showing a contemporary version, a traditional version, Mediterranean-inspired, and a craftsman version, all on the same footprint and massing. There is an alternate proposal, as Andrew said, for a larger, higher density, and that has the addition, that has more green space because of the subterranean parking. You can see the larger park. It has a meditation grove on the lower right, which was made available because of subterranean parking, and a public dog park on 5th Street. So it, in addition to more units, it offers more green space. And then just a note about who we are. Some of our recent projects, we work in the public realm. The Annenberg Community Beach House, which is the Marion Davies, William Randolph Hearst estate on Santa Monica Beach, which the Annenberg Foundation supported into becoming a public beach facility. It's won many awards and become an icon in that community. We still do residential work on the upper right. On the lower left, the Visitor Center and rehabilitation of the Sunnylands estate, which you may know that President Obama and President Xi of China met. The president has been there numerous times. It continues its role as a meeting place for high-level retreats. And we are very happy, and I think some of you are familiar with our recent project with Disney of the rehabilitation of Grand Central Air Terminal, for which we're very proud to have that project in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fred. Sure. And we are mindful of the time, so we're going to quickly go into having Cedric Morris come up and speak a little bit about, briefly, and if you have more questions, the finances and timeline.
Yeah, so I'll keep it high level as far as the financing of the project. We offered 2 proposals. The base proposal is the 70 units that we spoke about. In that scenario, we would ask the Housing Authority of the City of Glendale to donate the land, and we wouldn't need any additional support. In the alternate proposal, that's 91 units, we would ask for an additional $1.9 million of financing help. As far as timeline, initially we wanted to move the process forward so that we can apply for 9% tax credits in the first round of 2017. That's an aggressive timeline at this point that we want to try to stick to. And if we can, we would start construction in late 2017 and finish construction in mid-2019. So I'll pass it to Elena.
Thank you, Cedric. And yes, the next person to speak will be Elena.
Hello.
Hello.
So as Andrew said before, TSA management's goal is also to enhance the lives of our residents. We are an in-house management team. We do not do any third-party management, which enables us to protect and maintain the quality of our properties and the services that we offer to our residents. We're committed to honesty and integrity when it comes to our residents, and our perspective is not, you're so lucky to live here, but we're lucky you've chosen to call this place your home. We're successfully managing 2 projects in Glendale, as Andrew said, Gardens on Garfield and Veterans Village. And we have Jasmine here with us today. She's the manager at Gardens on Garfield, and she assisted with the lease up at Veterans Village. And Jasmine really embodies what it means to care for her residents and create a thriving community. I am going to call up Janine Evans next, who is our resident services coordinator. Janine has substantial experience in social and resident services and has a master's in social welfare. And I'm confident that you will see from our commitment to maintaining these properties and providing services that we are a long-term partner with the city.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so for resident services, we definitely want to take into consideration what is the needs of our residents. So we do a really extensive survey. We really want to identify what their needs are, what services and resources they want access to, and really be mindful of that as we're developing the programming. As a standard, we offer educational classes, exercise classes, and we also do monthly birthday parties. And the goal in the monthly birthday parties is to make our residents feel special, obviously, and we want them to feel appreciated on their special day. And we also want to add that to our properties and to the overall well-being of our residents. We believe that socialization and being involved in the community is really important, so we really encourage that with our programming and with the access to our different events that we do. We also, a huge component is supportive services and social services. So our goal in providing supportive and social services is to create kind of like a safety net. We want the residents to feel supported. We want them to have a network of care in place already, so they can fall back on that if needed. We do a lot of different programming with benefits, especially Medi-Cal, Medicare, Social Security, in-home support service. So it's really about education and also making applicable and thoughtful referrals for our residents. We also do a lot of senior health workshops and seminars, and that's definitely where we utilize our community-based partnerships. I'm just going to wrap up because I think one of the really special things about our properties, and something I haven't seen, is that we've had 4 residents who have turned 100 within this year so far. We have a couple on the deck. So their secret and what they've expressed to us is access to health and access to educational classes and workshops that incorporate health and wellness has really helped them age and age in place, which is really important and something we really want to encourage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just to sum up here, yes, I mean, Tom's philosophy from early on is extend independence as long as possible. And so when we design this building, every detail goes into how can we extend independence as long as possible. And I think those birthday parties are one metric that one could see, and it's something I think we are proud of. So in summary, why Sonora Village Green, and why Thomas Safran Associates with Fred Fisher Architects. It's really, our 40-year track record. I think that speaks volumes to the quality of buildings we do, and also our interest in moving forward. It is our long-term commitment to this very community with our in-house management team and our developments. Again, keep these affordable in perpetuity. It's our emphasis on, and I think we do this as well as anybody, frankly, is the quality of our buildings. It's our architecture, and again, it's really our flexibility. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, let's move into the questions because we're going to run out of time. Yes, Mr. Garpetian.
A few questions from the architect.
Sure. Right.
On the 70-unit proposal, you indicated that there's 25,000 square foot of green space.
Yes.
And what would that be on the 91-unit proposal?
I can answer that. It's 37,000.
37, because I want to make a note. 37,000? Okay.
And when we heard before this RFP was provided to the public, we did go back and hear some of your comments, and one of the comments we really heard was, how do you make this a park-like environment? And so that's what we really brought to the design.
I appreciate that. The loop, is it open to public? Walking loop around buildings? or it's only for the residents?
At this point, it's in a proposal stage. So again, we'd be interested in hearing what the public says, and there's flexibility on that. We have to be mindful of the community and also mindful of security.
Sure. And the unit mix on the 70 units, what is the unit mix?
They're primarily one bedrooms. I think there might be 1 2-bedroom manager's unit.
So mostly 1 bedrooms and maybe 1 or 2 2-bedrooms.
Most of the time we do 1 2-bedroom with the nicest view because we want to keep our managers, like Jasmine, for a long time. So we give them a really nice unit with a really nice view. So.
And on the 70 unit, what's the total square footage of your living space? Rentable space?
Per unit?
No, altogether 70 units, including your. What's your total building square footage, including the community room?
Do we have that? I mean, each unit is approximately 600 square feet. You have about a 15% square foot of circulation, and then on top of that, you would have 2,000 square foot of community room. So we can get. You have
63,000.
63,000 from David Ross. So there's the answer.
And the units are about to the microphone.
Can't hear you. Can't.
So it's 63,000 is the answer.
63,000, and the units are approximately 700 square feet each.
Okay, so
not
a little
600.
A little bigger.
We exceeded the minimum of 600.
Thank you.
So 70 units times 700 square feet. Okay.
One note on that too, just is because I know affordability. We assumed a certain affordability, and we are willing to increase the affordability to lower a range.
That was my next question, because you have 34 of them are 60% AMI, so I think it'll be a little bit heavy on the seniors to pay that rent. But
so we excuse me. Yes, no, we matched it to. But there's 2 scenarios: a 9% proposal and a 4% proposal. 9% are very competitive, 4% aren't. You can have a higher income level and rent level for 4%. Our 9% proposal, which is our first choice, is to go for 9% tax credits come next year. I mean, if we could work with you, it'd be 10% at 30% of median. I think it's 10% at 40. It's 40% at 50, and the remainder at 60%.
And 10-40.
But we have flexibility there if it's an interest to increase affordability.
And speaking of 9%, what's your track record on obtaining 9% tax credit on your projects?
It's something I think we really pride ourselves on is our track record of both of working with the community and also obtaining financing. That is really what we do, and it's why you would select us. So we have a very positive track record with tax credits.
Okay. And I have one question from the gentleman who does the financing.
Sure.
The difference between 70 units and 91 units, 70 units is 17 million, 91 units is 25 million, and you indicated that you would ask about $1.9 million from the city or subsidy from the city. Where would the rest of it come? Is it from 9% tax credit?
Still 9% tax credits, yeah. Okay. It would just be a higher amount.
It's based on your basis, so it's a calculation. You get more tax credits, the more expensive your building is.
Sure. And if I'm building a 70-unit project and my public subsidy is the same as the other project, and my cost is 18 million and the other project is 20 million, who has a better chance of getting the 9% tax credit?
It all depends. It's not a simple linear answer to that question.
Said is correct. It's a product of a formula. Everything at the end of the day with those tax credits goes to a tiebreaker, and the tiebreaker is basically how much subsidy you have over total development costs. So if you have more subsidy and your costs are lower, basically, then you'll have a stronger tiebreaker. What we do again exceptionally well, I think, is figure out based on past rounds what the tiebreaker we need, but not too high, not too low. What's the tiebreaker we need to get funded? And on Veteran Village, for example, right away we were on an expedited timeline to get that funded, and we got tax credits on the first round.
Got it. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Nothing from Mayor Devine. Okay, I have a couple. Yes. Nothing. Okay, I have a couple more questions, and we'll wrap this up. I'm sorry, you may have answered this question. So what's the square footage of green space on the project?
On the
25.
It's 25,000 on the 60 at the 70 unit.
Okay.
And it's 37,000 square feet on the 91 unit.
So more open space with the
because the subterranean parking.
Oh.
On the higher unit count, we went subterranean. On the lower unit count, we have at-grade parking.
That's why it doesn't require some.
That's right.
Cost of subterranean parking.
Okay, thank you. And I know my colleague asked about the 9% projects, and you said that you pride yourself on your rate of success, but how many 9% projects have you realized or are in progress of developing currently?
Geez, and we generally have what I like to say for 9% is about 2 per year. That's kind of our thing. We do both 9 and 4%, whatever seems to make more sense. And so 2 per year, in our pipeline. And I think over the last 5 years, we've probably had, and I could get you the number, but it's been consistent, the 1 to 2 per year for the last 5 years. So, okay. For instance, we just closed, the last round, we just closed 2 deals at the same time, and we both were 9% tax credit. So, yeah, it is, I would say, an expertise.
And my last question is, if the city were to require you to make sure that 10% of the units are, what do you call it, compatible for disabled individuals, whether developmentally or physically, that would not throw you off in any way?
We would do it in any event. Like Veterans Village, we included that already, and I think that's really important to do, so yes.
And, of course, the services that come along with that would not be a problem also.
We'd make sure the budget provides for services for those people, and Janine would supervise that. You could see she's really an expertise also in the services provided to seniors and also disabled seniors, so yes.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you for your presentation.
I'll just say in closing, thank you very much for the opportunity again to present to you. It really would be an honor and a privilege to do another project in Glendale. We not only love Glendale, we love the site at 5th and Sonora, and if you select us,
it's a great site.
We will make you proud. So my only question is, which scheme do you like more? Which design? So in any event, thank you so much.
Thank you. This is Scott's memo. They have the best chance. There you go. We're gonna. How much time does each applicant get? Plus Q&A. Wow. I run to the restroom. Guess we're not starting at 6 o'clock today. It's a safe assumption.
Next one is Abode. What's this one?
Wait for Joseph.
No, we can start.
Get started? All right. Next up is Abode Communities. This is the clicker. And I apologize. Robin Hughes from Abode.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay. Good afternoon. I hope you all are doing well. I know it's been an extended afternoon for all of you. As Mike said, my name's Robin Hughes. I am president of Abode Communities, and joining me today are Gio Aliano, our senior vice president and principal architect, as well as Laura Regas, who's our senior vice president for development. So first and foremost, Laura, do you want to do this? Okay. First and foremost, I want to thank you for this opportunity to present our proposal for the Sonora Gardens. We're very excited about the potential of working here in the city of Glendale. I will start with just a general overview. I know you have our actual proposal, and what's being handed out to you right now is the PowerPoint presentation that we'll be using for this. So Abode Communities, we're a nonprofit architecture, development, property management, and resident services firm, and I'm proud to say in about 2 years we will actually celebrate our 50th anniversary, so we've been around for an extended period of time. Doing affordable housing development, we have invested over $500 million throughout Los Angeles County. We have developed about 35 properties, which serve about...
Sorry, can I just interrupt you for 1 second? Is the booklet that we just received seems to be a little different from Exhibit 2 that's in our packet? Is that right? Are we to look at this instead of...
Yeah, if you want to refer to the one you just got. The one you had received before was from their PowerPoint presentation when they presented to staff.
Okay. Very well.
No worries.
Sorry about
just
that.
Just one point of clarification at that point. Is there any market difference between the proposal?
Probably the only difference is our schedule towards the end of the presentation, only because of delay in the selection process. The content is pretty much the same.
So the financing timeline, those charts, it's all the same?
The financing, yes, the timeline was adjusted a couple of months to take into consideration the selection process, but overall, everything is pretty much the same.
Very well.
Okay.
Sorry about the interruption.
No worries. Okay, so we are very committed to both long-term ownership and management of our portfolio. And as we've proposed in this particular case, we have extensive experience in working with cities around ground leases, and we have 8 senior properties that I'll highlight later on. We actually came out of the Community Design Center movement, and we continue to have a architectural studio within Abode Communities, a studio that is very committed to deep community design process. It's a full-service firm, and we provide services for our own portfolio as well as other developers. And we have, as an architectural studio, extensive experience in designing senior developments and a very, very strong commitment to sustainability. As I mentioned earlier, we also self-manage our portfolio, and we've been doing that for over 20 years now, which is an important part of the service we provide. We want to make sure that we have a strong connection to our residents as well as the neighborhoods where we have affordable housing development. So our property management services are pretty comprehensive, including property management, facility compliance, as well as fiscal management. And then lastly is our signature Beyond Homes program, which is our resident services program that we bring into our sites. And they range from services in our family buildings that focus on after-school programs for our kids, and our special needs building, the case management services that we need. And then our senior buildings, appropriate services from seniors to ensure that they are able to live in their housing long-term independently. So with our services as well as the services we receive in kind from the community, we bring about $1.2 million in services to our portfolio. I will highlight some of the resident services activity that we provide in our senior building as I give some example, but this really does highlight that with our senior buildings, we have active engagement. About 100% of our seniors are actively participating in our resident services program. And the program ranges from health and wellness to recreational activity, to healthy living activity, financial assistance, and just in the San Gabriel Valley alone, we have over 18 service providers that we partner with to deliver resident services. In terms of relevant experience, I want to highlight a few developments that we've done over the years that reflect the proposal that we're presenting to you today. The first couple of projects here are senior developments. Hudson Oaks is in the city of Pasadena. It's a 45-unit building that was originally 1980s really ugly architecture, and our architectural team did a really wonderful job of incorporating it into the beautiful craftsman style that we see here in the San Gabriel Valley, but in particular in Pasadena. The other development is in the city of Bell Gardens, Terra Bella, 65-unit senior development, again incorporating the Spanish style of architectural design in that community. I want to go back just to Hudson Oaks. It is located right next to Washington Park in Pasadena, so we gave great thought to connecting the development to the park. We have an entry into the park at the rear of the property, and we worked with a local community group to bring in exercise equipment in and around the park so that our residents, as long as the community at large, would have access to that equipment. And in Terra Bella, when we designed that project, again, wanting to make sure that the seniors were actively engaged, we have various exercise equipment throughout the courtyard, as well as more passive places where they could do their board games and things like that. So very much thinking about how we connect our seniors to the community. The other two senior projects that I want to highlight, the first one is Morgan Place. This one is in Los Angeles. It's 55 units, including special needs populations for individuals with physical or mental disabilities, and we bring a host of services specific to that population in that building. And then lastly, American Gold Star Manor. It's located in Long Beach. It's a rehab project that we recently started, 348 senior units that we are working with American Gold Star Manor. And this is a group that is dedicated to ensuring that individuals who have lost a child in battle or war have an opportunity to have access to affordable housing. So it's a national organization, and this particular development is in Long Beach, serving American Gold Star mothers, seniors, as well as veterans. So it's a really great project. And lastly, I wanted to give a couple of examples of how we've worked with local cities to connect housing to seniors. This particular project is in the city of Signal Hill. It's called Las Brisas. It was actually done in two phases. The initial phase was an acquisition rehab, and the phase that you see now is a new construction, which was an intergenerational project, so it included seniors as well as family. And within this community, we worked with the city to create this beautiful park that is primarily for the residents that live in the community, but also open to the general public. So we work very closely with the city to create this. In this particular case, the city does own and operate the park here in Signal Hill. And then in terms of ground lease experience, Abode Communities, as I mentioned, 8 of our developments are in a ground lease structure with a locality. In this particular case, the first project, Rio Vista, is with LA Unified School District. The school district owns the land, and we have a long-term ground lease with them. It was a great joint use opportunity where we developed affordable housing on a part of the site, and LAUSD actually has an early ed center next door to it. Again, an opportunity to have this great public-private partnership between Abode Communities and, in this case, LAUSD. And then on the other side is our Orange Grove project, which is located in the city of Pasadena. In this case, the city has a long-term ground lease, and we've built 48 family units on the site. This property has probably been in operations for about 12 or 13 years now. We are very, very excited to present to you our vision for the Sonora Gardens site. It was a wonderful opportunity to take an infill site in a community that has its own unique experience in architecture. We, first and foremost, our vision is to develop and design a high-quality, affordable housing development that meets our organizational standards, but will also meet your expectations in the city in terms of the quality of the design, the property management, and so forth. We also wanted to create a vibrant community that connected to the larger neighborhood. So you will see with the park, with the community center, how we're trying to make sure that the resources that we have on site are also accessible and available to the community at large. We really wanted to strike this balance between the housing and the open space. And again, you'll see in our design that we have provided ample open space off-site within the park, but as well as within the development itself. And you'll hear a lot about how we plan to create sort of this garden feel within the development. We also wanted to provide an opportunity to do a really great environmental project. So our goal here is to at least have a development that is LEED Silver. Abode Communities has a strong commitment to sustainability. We actually have at least 7 properties right now that are LEED Platinum, but our minimum standard is to at least get to Gold Silver. And we wanted to create an environment where seniors, as I mentioned before, have the opportunity for active engagement, healthy living, so that they can live independently within their home over a long period of time. So as Gio presents the design for this particular development, we hope that you see this vision thread throughout the design itself. So I'm going to ask Gio to come to the podium.
Very good. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And thank you for the opportunity to present this vision to you. And I'm Gio Aliano, Senior Vice President, Principal Architect at Abode Communities. I think if we go to the first slide, actually, that would be great. Sonora Gardens is an active living community for seniors. It is embedded in a community. It embraces the community, and it is designed to foster a sense of community and a sense of companionship with a deep connection to nature. Our design is actually based on a notion that we had, which has to do with what would it be like to be living in a garden, especially for seniors. What would it be like to be in a place that you're surrounded by greenery, by trees, by patios, by verandas, and things of that nature that really connect people and allow the seniors in this community to be able to connect with each other, see each other, be able to communicate, and stay healthy and live long. And so that is really the notion that kind of drove the whole design. It is, in fact, what I'll probably try to do is try to orient a little bit on this slide. If you're looking at the slide looking southeast, and what you see closer to the screen, you're closer to me, is the corner of the community building. Above it is the manager's unit, and then you see the park to the right, which actually links the housing to the left. When we tried to design this project very early on, again, our notion about what we'd like to live in a garden kind of got extended to something that we felt was really important, and to really revisit the idea of what typically happens in an apartment building. You know, double-loaded corridor, you go to your unit, you never really see daylight, and you go into your unit, you live there, and then you come out and do other things. So what we were trying to do was try to investigate or revisit, reinvent this notion of the double-loaded corridor. And in this scheme, what we've done is we've said, we want to make sure that there's always constant light, that there's always a connection to the outdoors. So the double-loaded idea got explored to the point where we said, well, what if that actually impacts or actually influences the way the massing is created? So the massing on this building is actually quite simple. It is really a play of void and solid that allows us to play with this notion of the double-loaded corridor, that you're constantly subtracting and adding spaces to create this sort of in and out space, in and out experience. And you're seeing a little bit in the plan. So the massing is really influenced by that notion. We also went to another level, and we said, we have this idea of the garden. What can we do to enhance this idea of the garden in terms of the architecture? So the architecture turned out to be contemporary for good reason. We didn't try to sort of pick a style and kind of plan around it. We said, let's let the planning influence how this building is going to evolve. And so the architecture evolved in a very holistic way because of these ideas, this idea of adding and subtracting spaces, creating a massing that was sort of this additive and subtractive thought process. So when we look at the plan in a little bit, you'll see that more vividly. Thank you. So this idea of the garden, this is a view of what we call the garden walk, and this is really the main spine of the building. And you'll see there's a balcony to the right with someone looking out, and then there's another balcony across the way. This really is, to us, is really what summarizes the whole concept, which is that you should be able to be in your unit as a senior, be able to connect with others, and not feel isolated. And this concept, I think, is clearly shown here, where someone in a unit can actually look across and see someone outside, either reading a newspaper, socializing with someone, or someone else across the way on their own balcony, to be able to visually connect and maybe even talk to them. And so to us, this is sort of the main, the concept that kind of drives the whole scheme. So here's a site plan, floor plan that kind of, thank you, that shows the whole concept. So just to orient you a little bit, north is to the top, and you'll see the park to the left, and then the two bars, which are the buildings. And so there are really three buildings. There's the building to the right, which we'll call the east building. There's a building to the left, the west building, and then there's a building to the northwest, which is a sort of square shape. That one there has the community room at the base, and then above it, it has the manager's unit. The building to the right, that one there at the corner, as you enter the building, it has the property management and then housing and apartments all along. The building to the left, which is the west building, that has primarily housing and some outdoor spaces. In terms of the community building at the base, it has not only the community space, but also has resident services, and it has a laundry area, so residents can do their laundry and be able to connect with the exterior. And then the manager's unit above that, basically that manages the whole project. The bar building to the right, primarily residential, as I mentioned earlier, to the right corner, just to the northwest of that bar building is the property manager's unit and offices. Now, in terms of the park itself occupies pretty much a whole lot, and there's a whole reason why we put the parking where it is. We wanted to make sure that the park itself not only linked clearly to the main space, which you see is unfortunately the pointer that I have doesn't work, but hopefully you'll be able to follow me. Where it says main courtyard, that is the main courtyard to the building, and just to the top of that is the main entrance from 5th Street. And so you come down that main entrance and you're into the main courtyard, and then you circulate north-south through the garden walk. And as you go up and down, you find yourself going into the units. You also find yourself in the main courtyard. But as you go west, you come out into the park. And the park, as I said earlier, is there for, there's a particular reason why it's located there. We wanted to make sure that this park was linked to the neighborhood.
Mr. Aliano, if you like, you can use the mouse, and you can show us where.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah,
it's very hard to follow, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go.
Can we do that? Okay, there you go. So the park is right here. And the idea is that someone can actually enter the park from here, and they're able to actually walk and take a really nice walk around the park. If you live in the building, you come out this way. Again, you can do the same thing. You can socialize, you can sit around, you can sit under the shade, and you can also walk around the block and socialize with people. The park has several amenities. It has a play structure for children, so children and families can come actually there and play and interact with the seniors. There are benches along the way, and there are also exercise stations along the way. So the seniors in the neighborhood can actually use that park for those kinds of activities. Maybe go to the next slide. Oh, do I have this? Yeah. There you go. So this is the second floor, which actually shows in a different way the concept of this double-loaded corridor that takes you up and down. This is one bar building. This is the west building. You can see the corridor in the middle, and then you have the units on both sides. But as you walk up and down this corridor, you're constantly coming out. This is actually outdoor space. You can look out into the park. You come further north, you come into another outdoor space looking down into the garden walkway. And so the notion of the double loaded corridor is different in this building than you would find in other buildings because of these outdoor spaces that you're always engaging with. And you have another one right here. Yes. So we have another one right here. And then let's scroll down. The third level, you also have other ones right here. So this is actually showing the third level. The building is primarily 2 stories in the main, in the core, and then 2 stories on the edges. On the east edge, we have a 2-story building, which is actually there for a reason. We wanted to make sure we had a good transition between the neighbors and our building, so we kept that building very low. It has roof gardens that the resident can actually use. There are community gardens actually on this roof. There's a community garden on this roof, and there's also some more community gardens back here. So
I do want to make a point on our last 30.
Yes.
So I'm going to boot him out because we're down to 30 seconds. So I do want to make one important point. We have a lot to cover, but have 20 seconds down. So one of the things that I did want to point out is that our parking ratio right now is 1-to-1 for parking because it was what was in the request for project approval. One of the things that we would definitely like to recommend is going to a half space per unit. That would reduce our overall parking podium, which you see there now, and we have better on grade for the courtyard, but it would also reduce our cost by $2 million, which we would propose to utilize to both continue to enhance our tiebreaker for the low-income housing tax credit program, but it would also provide an opportunity to do an upfront payment to the city towards the capitalized ground lease. So that would be something that we would be open to. But we're great. No. That's my last slide.
So why don't we talk about the financing
sure.
and so on.
Okay. Do you have a question, or would you like me to speak to it?
Well, just speak to it.
Sure. So I feel like we're proposing very elegant financing. We have 2 primary sources, which are the low-income housing tax credit program and the ground lease with the city of Glendale. So we think that this creates the most competitive financing overall and the most efficient way in which to get the project done. And you'll see in our schedule that we're proposing to go to the Tax Credit Allocation Committee in March of next year and have an allocation shortly thereafter. There are, of course, other competitive programs out there, like the Affordable Housing and Sustainability Program, the County of Los Angeles funding, but we felt that those programs, one, would increase competition for the project, or as well as extend the development timeline. So we wanted to present something that was more efficient overall in the financing. You will also notice that we don't have a first mortgage on the project, and that was both a matter of affordability, making sure that our rent range was affordable to the seniors we'd like to serve, but we're also utilizing the cash flow from operations to bring our robust resident services program, and it will allow quicker payments to the city against the capitalized ground lease. Against the ground lease. So.
Thank you. Would like to ask questions first. Mr. Garpetin?
Yeah, thank you. What is your track record on obtaining 9% tax credit?
We have...
How many projects have you done in the last 5 years, for example?
Oh, the past 5 years? I would say that we have gotten an allocation each year over the past 5 years. We've done both 9% and 4%. And just over the history of the organization, we've received an allocation for every single project that we've worked on. And we've been using the low-income housing tax credit since 1986, when the program was established. So we have a very, very strong track record.
So it's in the tens, the number. So
of the 35 properties that we currently own, all of them, all but one are tax credits transaction, and I would say that probably 30 of them are 9%, and the other 5 are 4%. Early in our history, we were also consultants to other nonprofits, and that's probably another 20 properties that we were able to get 9% tax credits on. So very strong track record.
I have a couple of questions from
Mr. Gio.
My dear friend, Mr. Aliano. Just a matter of disclosure that Mr. Aliano and I used to serve on design review board many moons ago. So, welcome back. It's good to see you. Quick questions. The total building square footage is 53,000 square feet. Am I correct?
Yes.
And that does not include your parking, right? The parking structure, but it includes the community room.
Correct.
And how big is the community room?
2,000.
2,000 square feet. Okay. And what are these architectural elements on the exterior?
Yes. So as I was saying earlier, they're cladding. They're wood cladding. And the idea was to bring some wood element into the project to make it feel warm and inviting. And so what you see there is basically timber-like elements that clad the building that create this sort of a forest-like feeling with the garden and the trees and the greenery.
Okay. And it's effective. It is effective, makes it very warm.
That's the idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. That's all I have.
Mr. Nigerian?
Just a brief question, not directly for the abode people, but are these projects required to pay into the DIF, the development impact fee?
Depending on the level of affordability, there's an exemption for affordable housing projects. So most likely with all of them being 100% affordable, they're not going to have to pay that fee.
Okay. Next question. Is it correct, the lady stated that the RFP required a 1-per-1 parking? And if so, they're the only group that has presented that. Everyone else has, on their own accord, sliced and reduced the parking.
Let me go back to the RFP. I have it right here. I do remember it saying, referring to code and talking about the code requiring 1 space per unit for seniors. I don't know that the RFP explicitly said that we would require 1 space per unit. So I'll double check.
That's probably a more accurate representation.
I believe that's what it was. The RFP referred to the code, which requires 1 space per unit. The RFP didn't explicitly require 1 space per unit for this project.
Well, except in its reference to our parking code. So it indirectly referred to the...
You could say that indirectly, sure.
Okay.
Typically, in a senior project, you wouldn't have one car per unit.
Well, that's a discussion for another day. But I just wanted. She made the representation that their project is perhaps a little bit overbuilt in the parking department. Asked us, would you consider reducing it? I don't think any of the others had asked that, so I just wanted to know what the standard was. And okay, thank you. That's my question.
Well, I actually think that your question makes all the difference in the world, because
I guess when we deliberate and discuss the merits, it'll be an issue. But for now, I
think you have the difference in a rather conservative interpretation of the RFP and other folks that you've seen today and may still see today that would be more in alignment of what is most customary. But ultimately, when you select a developer, you will negotiate one of those terms.
So let me go back to you on that issue. If we are generously willing to offer what it appears we're willing to offer everyone else, so how does that change your math?
So if we were able to go to a half space per unit, which is typical, that's what we would have in a standard senior building, we would be able to reduce our costs by $2 million. So that's the hard cost plus all of the soft costs associated with that. So then we would either suggest using that savings to increase the competitiveness of our tiebreaker for tax credits, and or provide an actual payment to the city, a capitalized ground lease to the city. Okay. From a design standpoint, we think it's great. We get more of our courtyard at grade and are able to provide better landscaping, deeper rooted trees and things like that. So we think it would be of great benefit to do that.
And it will not impact the open green space?
Not at all.
Yes, Mr. Barberton.
You will still go subterranean? In that case?
We have a podium, so we would still assume a parking structure. And I think what we have in our proposal that is pretty significant is the park. It's a larger park than I think what others are presenting. took us to building a structure as opposed to surface parking.
Okay, thank you.
I have two quick questions.
But I do want to point out, and Gio didn't have an opportunity to do this, I think what we've done with the parking that's really well is hide it from the street so you can't even visually see the parking in our design work.
Yes, Mr. Kelly.
I have two quick questions. Number one, who built the exercise facilities on the ground? Did you build those yourself?
In the case of Pasadena, at the park and Rec actually did the
Park and Rec did.
But the ones that are on site at our Terabella property, we built those on site.
You built those yourselves. And I was also going to ask you quickly about the resident services you provide.
So for a senior development, we have a resident services coordinator on site. We typically will split for our senior buildings. There will be a half-time person per site. And that person there is providing what I'll call case management light for our seniors to ensure that they have the resources that they need, whether it's medical, financial assistance, in-house health care, things like that. We also provide a series of workshop supports for our residents. I think the goal really is to make sure that the seniors are not isolating themselves in their units, but they're actively engaged in social activities. So we may do needle pointing or some creative, artwork to keep their hand movements, their visual, their mind going. Sure. We also find that our seniors are very active themselves. So at our Hudson Oaks project, there is a group that gets together that does Taekwondo in the park every morning, or there's a jogging group in the morning, and they have social activities. We do have a computer access in the center, so in our community center, so they will have access to their internet and things like that. So we try and provide a range of services so that our seniors can live independently.
Great, thank you.
And we will also partner to bring other services on site. So if there's a great healthcare provider in the neighborhood, Meals on Wheels, other support services. So we would definitely look to see what resources are available in this particular community that can be brought on site as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one quick question.
Yes.
When you talked about lowering the parking, to what specific would you? 0.7 per unit?
0.5. So I think we would go to 36 parking spaces.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. And so remind me again, how much green space or open space do you have on the project?
So open space, I think I have my notes here, about 30. Sorry, about 30,000.
30,000. Okay.
And so that includes the terraces, the community gardens, the outdoor patio. That's all that's on site, right? So that does not include the park. So that's just on the residential portion.
Right. That does not include the park?
Is that correct? The park is another 15.
That's 45,000.
So 45,000 total.
You provide outdoor barbecue equipment?
Yes, we do.
My last question is, I'm asking this to everyone. We're giving notice or anything else. If the city ends up requiring that 10% of these units are appropriate or compatible for disabled, both developmentally and physically, is that in any way going to change or cause consternation on your part or change your map?
So our Morgan Place project that I showed earlier has a very similar population, and I think what I would want to look at is how many units we have at the really lower income range to make sure that we have enough units to serve that population, because typically they're going to be, their wage earning potential will be lower. So I would say that that's probably the only difference, but we do have experience in serving that population from a owner property management standpoint and also bringing the services on site, so we wouldn't have a problem
so
with
the proportion of the lower income range residents would maybe change things for you?
Right now,
Oh, perfect. So about 10% of the units are at 30% of AMI, and those would work out for this population that you're proposing. So it's perfectly fine.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
All righty.
We have to move on to our last
All righty.
one.
Thank you so much, and good luck in your deliberations.
Thank you.
Well, realistically speaking, what are we going to do? We have one more, then there's deliberation.
No.
Oh, exhilaration. Okay, good.
So we will prepare a matrix for you, a summarizing. You'll get it, and it just.
Okay. We make sure that the matrix includes sort of the breakdown of the low-income ranges and each project, what they're proposing and how that changes. Yeah. Oh yeah, there you have it. You're right.
Last, we have Mark and Matt Ganji, Ganji Design Led Build. You can advance your slides using that.
Okay, great. Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
It's a pleasure to be here. We're Ganji Design Led Build. Our company, we place a high importance on design in our projects, and that design leads the process of creating memorable and meaningful places. Our company consists of Ganji Development, which is our development arm, Ganji Builders, our construction arm, Ganji Architects, our award-winning architectural practice, and Ganji Management, which is very important to the overall aspect of how we run our projects. All these companies are within our company. They're all connected and strengthened by each other, and giving us the ability not to have to hire out all these services. We are highly competitive. I'm Mark Ganji. I'm an architect. I'm a LEED accredited professional, which is an accreditation for sustainability. I have extensive experience in designing housing. I've taught housing design at the USC School of Architecture, and have also been a 2009 president of AIA Pasadena Foothill chapter, and currently chair the Citizen Architect program at AIA National.
And I'm Matt Ganji. I'm an artist, a musician. I do a lot of community work. I'm the president of Glendale Beautiful. I'm a friend of Rockhaven. And
we heard that today already once.
And I've gotten involved working with my family as an extension of my community work, and also, my interest in sustainabilty.
Okay.
And I'd also like to invite Robert Lang up, who's a member of our team. He's our nonprofit partner. He's going to hand out our executive summary of...
Robert.
To the clerk, please.
This is an image of our board of directors. And on the far right is our brother Robert Ganji, and he's our corporate counsel, real estate expert. He handles all of our contracts. Oops. Let's see. How do I go back one? Sorry. Previous. Next to him is Frank Ganji, who's our president. He's a real estate finance expert and is in charge of finance and operations of the company. And in the center is Salvatore Ganji, who's our chief executive officer. He brings a lifetime of experience of construction and real estate development to our team. Our group, it's a family business. We do a few projects every year, and our focus is on the quality of the projects that we do, not the huge quantity of projects. We have deep roots in Glendale. My grandfather and family came here in 1947 after working in New Jersey. My father worked with his brother Charles Ganji, and they created homes around Glendale and back in the 50s. And they also worked with my grandfather Frank Ganji, who was a stonemason and was the founder of our company.
Yeah, they started out as carpenters and masons in Glendale building houses and started up the company. And we found out recently, we were thinking about it, every member of our family lives within 5 miles of the 5th and Sonora site.
Our company's produced a wide variety of projects in many fields. Again, our specialties on quality and placemaking and community. We've done everything from mixed use, institutional, affordable senior housing, and master plan communities. And I'd like to show you a few of those projects. This is an office building that we developed at 1000 North Central on Central and Glen Oaks in cooperation with the redevelopment agency here. This is the recently completed institutional project, the Christian Life Church in La Crescenta, which we just completed. It had suffered a fire, and it was a church that my grandmother had gone to all of her life. These are the Vermont Avenue Lofts in Glendora. It's a mixed-use project for sale housing and retail. This is a mixed-use project that we built in South Pasadena called the Mission Meridian Village. It's housing and retail over parking, and also includes public parking for the Gold Line station in that area. It was published widely and lauded. This is a project that I designed in collaboration with architect Michael Lair, and then we also built the project. It's the Metropolitan Water District's Museums of Water and Life. It was the first LEED Platinum museums ever completed. And it's
in the world, right?
Right, yes. And it's solar powered and sustainable, and it garnered local, state, and national awards and was published and exhibited internationally. This is a project that we completed. It turned 40 years old last year. It's the Northwoods Village project in Glendale. And these units still are at the top of their market for sales in the area. This is a project that we recently broke ground on this summer, which is Penn Courts in Glendale on the Pennsylvania Avenue and the 210 freeway. And it was part of a land exchange that we did for some hillside property. That was a real win-win situation working with the community. And it's been noted as a model example of community outreach and participation as we went through its approval process. And Matt was really passionate about his work with the community on this project. This is a building that we designed, own, and still operate. It's the Silver Winds project in Lancaster. It's 124 units of affordable active senior housing. It's a project that promotes indoor-outdoor living in a garden environment, and it was in cooperation with the Lancaster Redevelopment Agency. And this is the Media Village project in Burbank, which is 147 units of affordable active senior housing, with 60,000 square feet of retail at grade and a 500-car subterranean and parking structure that's a public structure.
We really need to update the photo on the left. We've done a lot of sustainability retrofits. Now the entire roof is all solar.
Right, where it shows about 50% there, 50, 60% there. And yeah, we've been through an extensive sustainable retrofit of the building. And so we're very pleased to present the Fifth and Sonora project to you this evening. This is a community-focused, sustainable, active senior community of 81 units, and it's anchored by a large community room that's set in the middle of a park that fronts 5th Street.
And our project is geared towards sustainability. It's designed to the Greener Glendale Plan, Cal Green. It's LEED Gold, but towards a LEED Platinum project, which is the highest level of sustainability, is our goal. The Safe and Healthy Streets Plan, and even beyond those plans, it contributes positively to energy reduction, water reduction, waste reduction, helping in local transportation, urban design, and urban nature.
Yeah, our goal is to really create projects that contribute positively to a neighborhood and a community.
And we pulled a walk score, and it scores an 80, which means that it's very close to a lot of services, which is really great. Also, you can bike to downtown Glendale or downtown Burbank from the site in 20 minutes. And seniors today, I think it's good to encourage people to be active and be walking in the communities and riding bikes. So we're going to have a lot of bike parking in all of the park area and also on the site, not only for the seniors living in the project, but also for the community to encourage alternative forms of transportation. And we have we're going to try to make this as sustainable as possible through solar power, electric EV charging stations, water conservation, gray water reuse, permeable paving, drought-tolerant landscaping, and foodscaping, which we'll get into a little bit more in detail soon. And as an artist, I'm connected to a lot of nonprofit arts initiatives in Los Angeles and even esteemed private galleries. Here's some groups I'm connected to. I won't go into all of them, but their name pretty much speaks for themselves. Like curatorial assistants have rotating exhibitions. Big Draw LA is a really cool organization run by Ryman Arts, and they do large drawing events in different spaces that involve the entire community, people of all ages. So in the Grandview room, in the community room that's in the front of the project in the park space, we would invite these different nonprofit groups to exhibit public art, and also we'll be working with them on the actual design as we move forward on, what's the best way to exhibit public art.
So this is the site plan of the project and shows 5th Street at the top of the screen. That's the area where we have this park space with the community room set in the center of it. And then our project, which is the housing project, is the project in yellow. So it fronts 5th Street with pedestrian access, but its vehicular access is off of Sonora Avenue, with the parking located at the rear of the building. Here's a floor plan, a typical floor plan of the project, and so here you see again. This is the park space with the community room that's fronting on 5th Street, and then behind that is access to the housing, to these 2 courtyard spaces, and you'll note that the project is accessed off of access balconies versus double-loaded corridors. And this is something that we feel strongly about, that the design of a project can greatly aid in the socialization of the people who live there. When you're in this project and you come out your front door, you're inside of a garden space and you see your neighbors and everything else. If you can imagine a double-loaded corridor, the length of the project, it not only gives you spaces that are not humanly scaled and comfortable to be in, but it creates isolation of the residents.
So I'm sorry, those are open-air balconies?
Yes.
Okay. On the 2nd and 3rd floor?
Correct.
Open to the
right,
garden.
Open to those garden spaces. This is a diagram that also shows our concept of design. So along 5th Street, here's this park space that has the community room in the center, and then we have the kind of E shape of housing units that surround these 2 courtyards. And the other design move that we've done is the short ends, or the gable ends of the housing versus the long stretch of the housing faces the street. So what happens is that further suppresses the visual impact of the project. And then here's our concept of adding solar panels to the roofs of these buildings.
As you can see, the concept is to put solar everywhere possible. We're proposing a 496 panel, 148.8 kilowatt solar system. You can see some of the offsets there and emissions. I spoke with a solar consultant who said that the install is large enough that the residents wouldn't have to pay an electric bill, which we think is important. In affordable housing, people don't have the privilege to decide whether to put solar on their roof or not, so we think it's important that it should be provided. And you can see in the offsets, the solar install is the equivalent of, not drilling for 427 barrels of oil per year. So it's pretty significant.
So this is an image of one of our exterior rooms, one of our gardens that's inside of the housing project. And these areas are very important to us. So beyond the park space that's in the front, you'd enter into a yard gate into these spaces. And you can see here the orange doors are front doors to the units. And so we're 3 stories in this area. And then we really think of these garden spaces as places where people can also spend time. And we think, just as a precedent and idea of the materials, there'd be multiple materials in these park spaces, spaces for gathering, and making them really feel like outdoor rooms. And then also some sun shading in these spaces so that they're also comfortable spaces to be in throughout the day.
So for our water strategy, we want to do double piping gray water system, permeable paving, and some of those slides illustrate how the groundwater will be re-infiltrated with some of these practices, and drought-tolerant landscaping.
This is the other garden space in our project inside the senior housing project, and it shows how we create gathering spaces. And also shows some garden walls that we would place in areas where we would have bedrooms fronting these garden spaces. And these would allow privacy to the bedrooms and also private garden spaces for those units. Again, we think if you provide privacy and engagement, both those things together are handled, you're going to create a more social atmosphere. On the left-hand side is some landscaping area that we plan to use for foodscaping for the residents.
Yeah, so we'll encourage foodscaping, people growing their own food on site, which is a nice thing for the residents to be able to do, to have food to cook with, and it's also obviously a sustainable activity.
This has been widely popular in our existing projects. These are gardens in our Burbank project, which is 147 units that are completely run and managed by the tenants in the building. And what they provide is extremely lush gardens that have very little cost for us to maintain and a very high level of payback to the residents.
It's an opt-in program, but a lot of people, we found out a lot of seniors miss gardening, so that there's open space for them to garden in and grow vegetables that they use in their cooking. There's mint there, tomatoes,
pomegranate tree, all kinds of stuff. This is a view at the rear of our project, which shows how we've located a lot of the massing of the project towards the back to visually reduce the impact of the project from 5th Street. The parking is accessed again from Sonora and is located under this solar canopy.
And so, under the solar canopies, we're going to have EV charging stations, so people are going to be able to plug their cars directly into the sun, which is the future.
So this is a view that we opened with, which is our grand view room, community room. You can see a little bit of the housing from the back, but this would actually look very public and very engaging to the community from the outside of the project, and would also help to engage our residents to the community and have them be part of it. And here's a view in the opposite direction along 5th Street looking towards Sonora, and also shows some of these outdoor plaza spaces. So beyond the green spaces that we'd also have outdoor spaces for gathering.
You can imagine the arts initiatives with things in the Grandview Room, also public art in the public spaces, and all kinds of other activities for the seniors, which our nonprofit partner Robert Lang will speak more to as well.
Right, so at this point I'd like to introduce Robert Lang from Pacific Southwest Group, who's our nonprofit partner, to discuss some of the services they're providing and any questions on the financing.
Before you do that, we have a question.
I just have one question. On your concept drawing, where is the garden, garden you were talking about?
Let's see.
Foodscaping? Where is that on the?
So you'll see that there's the large park in the very front that's off of 5th Street.
Right.
Behind that would be pedestrian access gates that would come into the actual project, and there's 2 courtyards on inside that project. Mm-hmm. So inside of that would be the let's see.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
You let the water running over there.
Okay, so those spaces would be in these gardens, this one and in this one.
That's why we have the permeable paving in case someone does leave their water on.
Yeah, right.
It'll go to the urban forest.
Yeah, we control the water use. We have timers on the hoses, and we allow hand watering only. And what we found in our Burbank project is we set up a few of the planters for gardening, and they've taken over every single one of them.
Thank you.
So I have a quick question.
Yes, Mr. Garpetti.
On south elevation, which is fronting the Fifth Street.
Okay.
On both sides, what is this penetration? Is it just are there any windows on that side or not?
Definitely there could be. There's a conceptual drawing. There'd definitely be windows. It's the idea is it looks like a garden wall from the project, and so again we'll have the ability to put landscaping in front of it, and really try to integrate where the park ends and where the housing project begins as a nice transition. But you don't have people, outside of somebody's unit or that kind of. Okay, great. Here's Robert Lang.
Thank you. My name is Robert Lang. I'm the President and Executive Director of Pacific Southwest Community Development Corporation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. We've been in business since 1993, and we're delighted to be in partnership with the Ganji Group on this very fascinating project. We operate out of San Diego, but we have around 60, I think over 60 properties now that serve over 6,000 families throughout the state.
I'm sorry, I have to ask you to literally take another 2 or 3 minutes to wrap up because we still have to ask questions, and it's past our evening session time, 6 o'clock. So my apologies.
Talk fast here. We have a huge amount of experience in affordable housing and in partnering for this type of property and the method of financing it. We have had extensive experience with 9% to 4% tax credits and sourcing funding from all kinds of interesting sources to be able to provide the capital to build these properties. We also provide services to the residents. We have at the moment 35 employees who are very experienced in providing services, and for a population that is going to be seniors, we can do all sorts of interesting things like nutrition classes, financial education, fraud prevention, exercise classes, cultural enrichment, senior companion programs. We can link to third-party service providers. We provide food bank services. We do health screenings, and in some properties we even have an office for a visiting doctor to come and hold clinics. We do neighborhood watch and safety programs. And so we are very experienced in providing this type of service throughout the state, really from all the way from San Diego and Imperial County up to the Bay Area. And we'd be delighted to participate in this project with Ganji Group, and we can certainly bring the financing to be able to achieve those goals. We did have this handout that was sent out, and I ran some numbers on how we could finance this project, and I think that we can fairly comfortably arrive at the following percentages of rents. At least 20 units could be rented to people who earn 30% of the area median income, 20 units at 40% of the area median income, and 40 units at 50% of the area median income, which I think is an achievable goal for us.
While you're on that note, let me ask you a question. The report that we got from staff has very different numbers. It has 0 at 30%, 0 at 40%, 9 at 50%, and 71 at 60%. So it's actually very high low-income ranges. So how come the discrepancy? What's going on?
Well, I guess I should ask my partners to come up. But when I was involved in the project, I was tasked to see how we could get the lowest rents on the project. And based on the experience that I've had over the years and the other properties that we've done, I think that we can achieve this because we can certainly apply for 9% tax credits, which would take place in March of next year. And we think that with the value of the property that I understand will be conveyed to a future limited partnership, we can certainly have a very high tiebreaker score at TCAC. I don't know if any of you have been involved with TCAC before, but it's a very competitive application. It takes place twice a year, and we certainly know how to win those kinds of applications because we've done it so often. And I think that these rents are definitely achievable, and that's probably why I was invited to participate with Ganji in this proposal.
So in other words, the initial proposal when it was submitted, you hadn't factored in, or your...
No, I hadn't factored in the calculations to do this.
And is that the reason that in the proposal, the size of the units was 500 square feet.
Well,
now you've changed those as well.
Yeah, the units are probably a little bigger. They're between 595 to 547 square feet, which is the kind of size that you need to make them to be qualified for affordable housing and for tax credits.
Did our proposal ask for 600 square feet minimum? Did our RFP ask for 600 square feet per
Yes.
minimum?
600 is our minimum square foot according to code.
Yeah, and we'd be happy to do that. We're very close to that with our sizes right now.
I mean, it is a very conceptual plan at this stage, of course.
And another question about, as I'm looking at your term, I guess it's a term sheet, the uses of fund and source of funds, they both assign, well, it's a different number, pretty close, $10 million for land acquisition loan. Is the land acquisition the Housing Authority's contribution of the land?
Yes, I mean, the way that we envision this is that the land is owned by the Housing Commission. It would be conveyed to the partnership that is going to be building the project. And the price of the land would be paid would be through a loan that the partnership would take out. In other words, would give you a note and a deed of trust. And the fact that the value of the land is so high, and we think it is high, it's obviously a very valuable property, will allow us to count that as a contribution from the Housing Authority to the project, which will ensure that we get a very high score at TCAC, the tiebreaker score, which I think is the key to getting the finance for this project.
Well, I get that, but what I'm concerned about is whether the value of the land really is that high, because I think the city doesn't value it nearly that high,
well,
more closer to half that amount. I mean, at least that's the amount that everyone else has been running with.
Okay. Well, I think that it obviously needs to have an up-to-date appraisal, and I think you may find that it is probably that high. I mean, if it can be developed at this density, I would have thought that around $125,000 a door for an apartment building or a condominium building, market rate, would be realistic. So that's what we based it on, because I think it's a valuable property in a very attractive location. So I think that evaluation, if it was for open market use, would certainly reach that level.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Najarian.
Just briefly, I know we're running short on time. Not to reveal any secrets, but your construction costs are quite less than anyone else's that we've come in, and I find that unusual, especially in light of all your fancy eco bioswales and solar roof and charging facilities and all that. So I guess you don't have to answer that, but it just seems like it's on the light side. And in addition to that, does the city need to kick in an extra $3.5 million on this at the permanent 40-year loan? Is that how you're...
Let me answer the construction number real quick. So, again, we have construction services in-house. We don't have to hire a general contractor to provide the project. So when we're excited about a project like this one, we're not only extremely competitive, a company that doesn't have this capability, they can't reach us.
And in terms of the $3.5 million permanent loan, no, that would be probably a 40-year loan from a bank. It would be a permanent mortgage on the property, and it would be paid for out of the net operating income of the property. Okay. It's a pretty standard practice. The capital stack is made up from the hard loan, which would be a mortgage, the tax credit equity, which is the tax credit investor who comes in and buys the tax credits, and then the permanent, and then any other soft loans such as a land acquisition loan and a deferred developer fee, which is usually, it fluctuates up and down, but it's available to help fund the project.
Are you going after 4 or 9%?
Well, I think that if the goal is to lower the rents as far as possible, I think a 9% tax credit application is the way to go. I think that there are various things we can do in order to even lower that further if we had more time. I mean, we can apply to other sources of funding, like the Federal Home Loan Bank, the Affordable Housing Program. We've been very successful with that in the past. They would be willing to, on application, I'm sure, to consider an application from us to provide additional funding. And the more funding that we can provide from other sources, it does two things. It raises the tiebreaker score that makes it more of a certainty that we'll get the funding at TCAC, and it helps us to reduce the rents because then we need a smaller permanent loan. And of course, the ideal really would be to get the permanent loan down to almost zero, which means that we don't have to have any net operating funds to service loans. It can all be used to reduce rents at the property. And we do have situations like that in other places where we have actually no permanent loan. And we even have properties in Imperial County where the rent for a certain percentage of the population is zero. I mean, amazing as it may seem, it's actually zero for farm workers in that part of the world. I'm not saying that we can get that here, but it can be done. And we're certainly very aggressive at getting financing. I just completed a project in Morro Bay where it's smaller than this one for seniors, where I had 10 different sources of finance, which was quite an adventure because every source was represented by a lawyer, which is always fun. But we managed to get it done, and we've got 30% rents there too. So it can be done, and we have done it.
Okay. Unless there are any more questions.
One quick
Yes, Mr.
comment
Kelly?
I wanted to make. I wanted to compliment Ganji. That's my neck of the woods. My hood is up on Montrose Avenue where you rebuilt the Christian Life Church. I've been in there 6 or 7 times. I know the pastor and the staff over there. It's an incredible building. You guys did a fantastic job over there. It's like the pride of Montrose Avenue. I just want to let you know. It's just an amazing building, so it's a great job.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you. Unless there's authority member staff comments, there are none. There's no new business. And if someone would like, staff have any comments on this?
Just by way of going forward, we'll be preparing a summary of all of this, kick it over to the council, our Housing Authority Board for next week, and you will deliberate in public next Tuesday.
Very good. Would anyone like to move to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned at 6:14. And please don't.